So basically, today is the second day, and last week actually we had an inaugural session with a couple of eminent personalities, weaving their ideas, presenting their ideas, and then we started with the initial introductory session by Mr. Narayana on the SME at very macro level perspective. Then I started the syllabus in detail. So hope you have an basic idea on what exactly the syllabus that we are going to coverage that we are intending to cover during the 96-hour program. And also then I started the SME into some aspects like introduction and the importance to the economy, definition again, because a kind of a repeat session sort of from the previous lecture. And then we also discuss about the sectors that SMEs are majorly present, right? So those areas we discussed. So before we starting today more formally, any questions? මොනවා හරි අපිට ගැටලු ගිය සතියේ තිබුණාද? එහෙම නැත්නම් තවත් කාරණා මොනවා හරි දැනගන්නට අවශ්‍යතාවක් එහෙම අපිට තිබුණාද last week එකේ? Ganeshan, Ruan, Kanchana, anything that you want to add what we discussed? එහෙම නැත්නම් Sumit, Chaturika, මොනවා හරි තව add කරන්න, එහෙම නැත්නම් තව ටිකක් clear කරගන්න, නැත්නම් gray areas ටිකක් further clarifications වගේ මොනවා හරි තිබුණාද last week sessions වල? Last week session එකේ basically. Okay, hope not much kind of the gray areas, but anyway, if we are continuing, when we are continuing, you can always ask questions and get the things clarified if it is not exactly clear. So I must try as much as possible to put everything is very simple, practical perspective. Though I have shared a couple of presentations and the reading materials today. Also, I have uploaded 3 material like session materials, like 2 presentations and the 1 reading material, which could be used in next lectures, right? So you can always go through and get an idea on these things in detail, because during a class we might not be able to cover everything, but I am trying to give a detailed descriptions, the explanations, reading materials, which would be useful for you to proceed mainly on the concepts, right? So today that we try to understand mainly issues faced by the SMEs, right? It's a very important area where every relationship manager, every credit manager should know these things, because if you want to move forward with SMEs, right? Before we go into more technically the presentation area, let me get an idea from the audience, right? So when you say issues faced by SME, who create these issues? In your perspective, who could create these issues? Any idea? Let's say we find a SME entrepreneur, right? So probably he might have a lot of issues in, accessing financing, reaching bank, right? Getting, the financial advisory services, right? So many things, right? So if we meet, he might tell so many things that he need to, cope up. කාට හරි මෙතන කියන්න පුළුවන්ද මේ ප්‍රශ්න ඇති වෙන්නේ කාගෙන්ද? Who are the responsible parties? අපිට එහෙම තිබ්බොත් මේක හරි ලේසි අඳුරගන්න. දැන් ප්‍රශ්න අඳුරගන්න එක හරි. ඒ ප්‍රශ්නේ එන්නේ කාගෙන්ද කියලා අඳුරගත්තාම ඒ ප්‍රශ්න වල උත්තර දෙන්න ගියාම මම හිතනවා මේක ටිකක් successful. නැත්නම් හැම වෙලේම ප්‍රශ්න ඉගෙන ගන්නවා ප්‍රශ්න මොනවද කියලා කතා කර යනවට වඩා. Anybody can suggest here who the culprits, not the culprits, who were the contributors of these problems?
Finance companies and entrepreneurs. Some could be
bit loud.
Finance companies and finance institutions and entrepreneurs.
Yeah, financial institutions like us, maybe bank, non-financial organizations. Yes, one correct. Then entrepreneur itself.
Yeah.
Very correct, because SMEs itself. Tilini is spot on two stakeholders she mentioned. One is entrepreneurs, SMEs, right? They are responsible to some of the problems. And we, bankers, non-financial organizations, we also part of the responsible parties toward this problem. Kanchana, anything that you want to add?
My answer is the same. Internal and external problems.
Okay.
Internal are that entrepreneurs matters.
Okay.
And external are that said like that institutional and other economical government.
All right. Very good point, Kanchana. So you mentioned something different what myself and Tilini opine with. So that is banks or the financial institutions, SMEs, and the other organizations like government, maybe departments, ministries, right? Other institutions also, to some extent, creating problems. Like now, at the inception, last week, we were mentioning that there's no formal definition for SMEs. Right? එතකොට ඒ කියන්නේ formal definition එකක් නැහැ කියන තැන ඉඳන්ම අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවා SME අඳුරගත්තේ නැත්නම් කොහොමද අපි SME set එකට cater කරන්න කියලා. ඒක ඇත්තටම බැංකුවලවත් SME entrepreneurs ලගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙවෙයි. Authorities, maybe government, maybe the departments, maybe the whatever අපි කියන so called institutional support එක දෙන අයගේ ප්‍රශ්නයක් තමයි මේ SME define කරලා දෙන එක. Maybe example, if you take about the parliament, SME act එකක් අපිට තියෙනවා. නැත්නම් අපි හිතුවොත් in Sri Lanka that we have some recovery වලට acts ගොඩාක් තියෙනවානේ. We can go to court, සමත මණ්ඩලද ඔක්කොම කතන්දර තියෙනවා. හැබැයි do we have an act for semi restructure rehabilitation එහෙම නැත්නම් credit support පැත්තට තියෙනවද? එහෙම නැහැ. හරි දැන් example එකට when SME customer comes and there is no timeline that we should provide the facility. එහෙම මොකුත් තියෙනවද නැහැ. right අපිට ඕන කාලයක් අරගෙන වන් කරන්න පුළුවන්. මාස දෙකද 6ද 10ද ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෙවෙයි. So it's very bad, right? Because of entrepreneur, SME, right? They want money in very quick time. Because their ideas is very spontaneous. ඉතින් ඒක ටක් ටක් ගාලා අපිට turn around කරන්න we should be able to. හැබැයි එහෙම financing side එකේදී එහෙම support එකකදී ලොකු එහෙම නැත්නම් නීතිමය පැත්තෙන් regulatory පැත්තෙන් support එකක් act එකක් mechanism එකක් අපි දකින්නේ නැහැ. But in order to come to recovery, we have so many things to do. මොනවා හරි කළා recover කරගන්න there are so many acts and things are in operation. හරි. එතකොට what I wanted to tell you here is now when you say issues are created by SME itself, banks, financial institutions, and like organizational or maybe the institutions. Then examples of institutions that we just mentioned issue where is no formal definition. Right, so many other things we can discuss in bit later. For the financial institutions, what are the problems we create? Because we might not offer adequate product categories, product offerings to the clients. Now, අපිට ඕන එක අපි සමහරවිට client එක කියනවා මෙන්න මේක තමයි product එක, you need to take this කියලා. හැබැයි this is not the ideal product that he or she is expecting. අපි අපේ credit appetite, risk appetite, we might say, so this is what we can offer. Those are some of the issues. In terms of SMEs itself, problems like there is no financial discipline, transparency, preparation of financials, right? Collateral is not available. So those are some problems created by the issues created by the SMEs also. What I wanted to tell you here is, when you are trying to tackle these problems, just for the learning sake, here we say issues like SME and remedies, like that's fine. But in your practical perspective, try to understand this is not a problem only by themselves. This is not the problem created by ourselves. This is not the problem created by institutions. So with three stakeholders like ඔක්කොම එකතු වෙලා කරන සමහර ප්‍රශ්න හින්දා තමයි මේ ටික ඇති වෙලා තියෙන්නේ. When we are trying to find answers also, maybe individually also we can do some sort of remedies. solutions. But collectively also, we need to do that. Next week, we are trying to learn about SME policy frame. Though it's a bit theoretical, so it gives a kind of a good foundation, would start to solve some of these problems that we are trying to discuss. Again, as a nation, we try to grow SMEs in next decade. So that's what the SME policy framework, which has been developed by the government of Sri Lanka. So we'll come to that in next week. So come to a presentation slide. Issues faced by SMEs: inaccessible to capital, insufficient collateral, lack of financial knowledge, single buyer market, so and so forth. So we'll take one by one and give a bit of brief description, because these are important for you to understand, the SME market. Inaccessibility to capital, right? That is basically we call about access to finance, right? Because now they want capital, right? So initially they try to bring some capital or maybe some savings from their own, and they're trying to start it. Then over a period of time, they need money. It could be from their relatives, could be their friends, could be, now they go to the money lenders, banks, finance companies, because they want some money to, grow the business. Inaccessibility to capital. Capital like a ganda, lazy. So we say that, there are so many finance companies, so many banks and like that. But when you go to that places, they ask different things. So not easy to get money from those institutions. I mean to say debt capital, for example. When you say share capital, right? So that's about an equity capital. They might not have it, right? Not easy. Why? Unable to generate internal capital due to high cost of credit, right? Why? Because now how you create the internal capital, that's a retained earnings, right? So that's a reserves we talk about. In order to create that, you need to have higher profits, right? Good up. Profits are generate කරන්න ඕනේ. එහෙම තමයි අපි internal capital එක. එහෙම නැත්නම් return earnings හැටියට කියන්නේ. හැබැයි ඒක කරන්න not easy, because the cost of capital, the cost of financing bit high, right? Interest rates high වෙනකොට capital interest ගෙවලා, other charges ගෙවලා, they then don't have much to retain. Reinvest කරන්නත් එපා MPC කොටස. So that is one of the critical issues the SMEs are having. Inaccessibility to capital, unable to generate internal capital. If they can generate internal capital, they can use as another bargaining tool with banks and say, so this is my equity. I have grown to this level to this level. Why don't you give me the debt capital to this level to this level? Then banks is willing to give. හැබැයි නමුත් මෙහෙම debt capital එක වැඩි කරන්න බැංකු වලට බෑ. Internal capital එක වැඩි වෙලා නැත්තම්. ඒ internal capital එක වැඩි කර ගන්න බැරි, because their cost of credit is high. If the cost of credit high, now they are unable to generate adequate profitability and in return reserves. Hope you understand the first point. Insufficient collateral. What it means? Now, collateral are there, but sometimes they are not readily acceptable by the banks or finance companies. There are some issues in the collateral quality. So we have properties, but there's no clear title. We might have, the stocks kind of thing, but, maybe not exactly acceptable state to the organization. There may be machinery, but some banks may not be accepting machinery as, collaterals, right? So probably they might not have the adequate collateral. One thing is they don't have adequate capital to invest on the another properties and machinery, land building. Because ඒක business එකට දාලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒ business එක දුවනවා with the limited capital they have, right? එතකොට then they don't have collateral in first place, or they have collateral which is not quality enough. So ඒ ප්‍රශ්න තිබ්බහම when you go to the banks might insist on collateral. එතකොට they are unable to get adequate credit. එහෙම වුණාම තමයි they go to the money lenders. මොකද ඒගොල්ලන්ට තියෙන ඉඩමක් mortgage කරලා මොනවා හරි කරනවා title බලන කතන්දරයක්වත්. Those things are not very much looked into by these money lenders kind of thing, informal lenders. Now the banks are a bit tough on that, so probably they have some issues on provision of collateral. Lack of financial knowledge, that's another issue, because probably when you talk about one-to-one chat on financing, financial numbers, ratios, position, state, the situations, probably they don't understand. And then you go look at, this is my turnover, this is my profitability, right? So this is what I'm going to do, like that. So the cash flow කියන එක අපි කිව්වට cash flow එකගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ. So they are not taking that spirit, right? So we are not in the same page. We might say, so we have to have, proper bookkeeping. Why not to go for some, auditing company? Tax purposes, you need to, manage, those things in a proper way. EPF, ETF things has to be, paid up in proper time. So those are some of the, financial discipline that, we try to inculcate. But they might not understand that, right? They don't, think sometimes. They don't have enough time to, think all those things. They may not, hire a proper, finance guy to, look after the finance function in the firm. Samanta IT කාර්යම එක කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So those are some of the issues in terms of managing financing. මේකම හින්දා they might, go and invest in, unnecessary ventures, which could create, issues towards a business. Then single buyer market concentration. That's another important aspect that as credit persons we should look into, right? What it means by, so we are discussing the single buyer, single market concentration. So again, as credit officers, this is very important because let's say when your customer, selling their merchandise or providing their services to maybe one buyer or maybe a single market, then we have a risk in terms of market failure or back out of the buyer, right? Because it's very risky because we expect the client to service our debt using the sales proceeds or the income generated through these particular buyer markets. So එයාට තියෙන එකම buyer කෙනෙක් නම් ඉන්නේ. එනතන එයා cater කරන්න එකම market එකකට නම් there is a risk, concentration risk එකක් තියෙනවා. So we need to understand that because sometimes, the clients, because the comfort, because their relationship, they prefer to, deal with the one buyer or single market, but they don't know much about, the what do you call the concentration. ඒක එච්චරකුළු හිතන්නේ නැහැ. ඔබට කාලයක් එක මම වැඩ කරා, ඒගොල්ලෝ හොඳයි, so this is my, savior kind of thing. So that's fine if you are operating in the micro level. But if you want to grow next level, so it's a huge risk that he is taking. Right? A buyer back out karot thari, then if something happened to that particular buyer, then we have an issue because we might have funded this, SMEs. So you need to understand the single buyer market consideration, which is an issue because reluctant finance companies, banks are reluctant to finance if we found out that they don't have, multiple buyers, multiple market segments. Uneven IT literacy and management skills, because that is also an issue because not like those days. So everybody is now in the IT platform, e-commerce platform. Everybody is, a bit familiar with the kind of, the information, communication, technology, aspects. But let's say in some clients are very good at that, some are not. So probably that might have an issue for their performance, right? And management skills also maybe differ from client to client, SME to SME, because sometimes they might have learned the management function by doing the work, engaging the business. Some may have gone to the formal institutions and get their, education or the qualification accredited. So like that. So the skills levels are also different. So that may have an impact on their performance. Lack of formal procedure and discipline. That is very important. Sometimes we talk about these people are taking decisions their own. Sometimes they're not going to consult anybody within the organization. How much expertise are there, but they might not. Maybe the lawyer, marketeer, accounting. So all functions are handled by the one person, right? So then they are not, disciplined enough to, consult, read, and analyze and take a decision. They might say, this is correct, so I'm going to do. Or I have taken some decisions in my past which have worked for me, so why not this also? I'll do like that. There's no formal, right? So there's no procedural, you know, process to that. ඉතින් එහෙම කරන්න ගියාම සමහර වෙලාවට මේ decisions වර්ධිනවා. ඒ decisions වර්ධිනවා කියලා කියන්නේ it has an impact to the business. Lack of capital market instruments, right? So like better that SMEs can go to venture capital instead of banks. Why? You know, venture capitals are, so we try to learn them in little later. Venture capitals are the firm or institutions take higher risk, right? Not like banks. Banks are not willing to take higher risk on the, you know, their borrowers. But venture capital companies, they take very high risk, expecting very high return, right? So then SMEs also, maybe that's the start, they are risky. Their concept is good. Business model could be good, but they don't have adequate capital and the further infrastructure. එතකොට bank එකක් ඒ වගේ තැනකට යන chance එකට වඩා venture capital එකක් ඒ chance එකට යන්න කැමති. So if we have venture capital companies, then it's good that SMEs can, you know, go and get the financing from them, then depending on the banks. Unwillingness to try out R&D innovation, that's another problem, because they think it's a waste of money, right? Even at time R&D එකක් වගේ කරන්න, I don't have maybe the capacity or maybe the willingness in the first place. Right? Because the competitors are doing that, so why not I do same thing here? Right? Nothing they are coming from the scratch and do some, you know, R&D and then, you know, come to the next one. No, they are not going to do. Innovation also, they might, you know, try to continue what they are doing right now. Maybe they try to change maybe the appearance or whatever, not the innovation. Improper business plan, very important. So later we try to understand these business plan concepts in detail. Very important in terms of credit officers, managers. මොකද්ද මේ business plan එකක් කියන්නේ? ඇයි මේක වටිනාකම? ඇයි මේක අපි හදාගන්නේ? Right? ඒක හරි වටිනවා, especially, you know, the SMEs, they don't have, you know, the better sort of approach. අපි කියන vision, mission, objectives ඒවා ඒ companies වල නැහැ. So then we at least have to some kind of a plan on how to do a future business in terms of financing, in terms of marketing, in terms of operations. ඒ ඔක්කොම තියෙන document එකක් අපි වෙන business plan එකක් කියලා. But in terms of SME, I will come to Samira will answer that question. Improper business plan. So if you don't have that, right? So then what could happen here is, yeah, you know, continuing the businesses, but there is no proper way forward. The business plan එකක් අපි හරියට කරලා තිබුණා නම්, then it might be easy for you to depend on that. Next level, like if there's a fallback, you can come and see what exactly went wrong. So this is our original budget. So we're not meeting that. So then why not we scale down the budget and still continue? Because there's an original document called business plan. So those are some of the issues faced by SMEs. And there are so many things that we can, you know, discuss and, you know, argue and elaborate. But I have given a couple of points here just for to understand, you know, why SMEs are not doing well. Right? What exactly, you know, happens to the SMEs that, you know, when they try to move forward, why they collapse at early stages. ඒ ඔක්කොටම reason එක තමයි මේ වගේ issues ටිකක් face කරන එක. So we have a question. Samira, to frankly tell you, there are not many venture capital companies in Sri Lanka. I wonder whether like there are separate, the LOLC might have some venture capital company. Other than that, there's no venture capital companies separately, you know, registered in Sri Lanka. But some development banks, like those days NDB, DFCC and all that, they did some venture capital portfolios, right? Other than that, we don't have many venture capital companies registered, operated in Sri Lanka. But I wonder that LOLC, they have kind of some venture capital arm. I'm not exactly sure the name, but other than that, we don't find any venture capital firms operating in Sri Lanka. But it's good that if somebody can start and, you know, when you discuss the venture capital companies under the sources of financing, under the next topic, so you can see what the venture capital role and there, you know, the advantage for this SME clientele. Any questions? Right. Now we discuss about the issues faced by SME perspective. Now similarly, on the other side of coin, banks, finance companies, we also face some issues when we try to undertake financing SMEs. ඒකත් අපි මොනවද කියලා බලමු. Undercapitalized and more vulnerable to cyclic swings. Because we were telling that the SMEs are not in a position to access the adequate capital. හේතුවත් අපි කිව්වා. එතකොට when you come to the other side, banks, you see that SMEs are there, but they are undercapitalized. No adequate capital, no adequate equity capital. So then we are unable to take a higher risk on these borrowers. And similarly, they are vulnerable to cyclic business cycle එක ගත්තොත්, or maybe economic marketing ඒ වගේ ගත්තොත්, ඒ cycles වලට, ඒ cycles වල තියෙන changes වලට, cycles වල impact එකට highly vulnerable. They can't stand for about a longer time. Then if you take the recent examples of COVID, so 2 months, 3 months, if you close the country, there are many SMEs now collapse because they don't have adequate capital, adequate resources to face these kind of cyclic effect. Right? Then corporates here, they might, without much problem, they can stand off and they can continue their businesses because they have adequate plan, maybe plan A, plan B, plan C, they have it. But SMEs ලට එහෙම කරන්න තරම් resources හරි, capacity එකක් හරි, knowledge එකක් හරි නැහැ. For the banks, it's a problem. If you are going to fund in a bigger way, so you have to keep in mind then we're going to undercapitalize. So the cyclical effects also, they are not, great to stand. එතකොට අපිට ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙනවා COVID වෙන්න පුළුවන්, maybe natural disaster එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම මොකක් හරි වුණාම මේගොල්ලන්ට මේක stand කරන්න බැරි නම් then they are unable to pay our debts. දැන් අපිට තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ එතනනේ. ඒ වගේ තත්යකට එන්න පුළුවන්. Co-mingle that personal and business financing. ඒකත් අපි හරියටම දකිනවා බක. Now when you say SMEs, එතකොට ඒකේ ඕනම තමයි try to do everything. එතකොට යාගේ drawings හැටියට තියන්නේ මේලා ආච්චුවේ drawings වගේ මේලා ආච්චුවේ business funds. එතකොට මේකෙන් අරන් මේකට එහෙම නැත්නම් business funds personal වලට personal fund business වලට they can use it. මොකද ඒවා හරියට ඇඳලා කරලා නැත්නම් අපි account වලට දාලා කරන දේවල් නෙවෙයි. But if you're in a firm, if you're in a company, directors separate, company separate. So they are, director remuneration is an accounting item. කොච්චරක් ගත්තද මොකද්ද and everything is there. Become expenses, director expenses, එයාට මෙලා office එකේ ලාච්චුවෙන් අරගෙන එයා කරන්නේ නැහැ. So there is a transparency. But here you can't say that, you can't see that. So that could be a problem for us. Then අපි loan එක දෙන්නේ business එකට නම් working capital වලට කියලා ඉවරලා. So if we take some working capital funds and do the personal activity, ගෙදරක මහල මේවා වෙනවා, නැත්නම් education purpose එකකට වෙනවා, නැත්නම් personal like wedding or whatever their daughter or son, so they can use that. එතකොට වෙන්නේ අපි we see that there is a drop in working capital financing or working capital capacity. මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඒතෙන්ට ගිය සල්ලි ටික එන්න ඕන සල්ලි ටික might have invested somewhere else. Right? So it's a issue for us because if you are going a bigger way in financing these guys. Side streaming. So that's again very important because now we see generally we expect client be funding, client to invest, generate, repay, reinvest, or reserve. So that's what we expect. But many clients, what they could do is, so instead of doing business alone, they might divert the funds to different activities. Let's say rice miller, right? So business funds taken out and start in a hotel. Land එකක් කරන් එයා hotel එකක් හදනවා. Yes, he could do. That's how he is going to do is not from the business funds. He has something surplus, right? Maybe a kind of a reserve, which is beyond the requirement of the business. Yes, kind of a dividend payment, or then you can use it for some other businesses. Cash flow capital expenditure in case of emergency, in case of stress, on them may working capital how? Better collection, stocking, extended stocking. එහෙම වෙනකොට මේක අර කලින් විදිහට වගේ මේ සයිකල් එක කරකෙන්නේ නැහැ. එහෙම කරගෙන කාලයක් තියෙනකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? මෙතන සැලරි ටිකක් අතෙන්ට ගියාට ඒක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ because you see a fluctuation, you see a cycle. But when you see you're in stress, when you are not getting funds, then there you see there is a kind of the void here. It's not within the cycle. You are getting it from everywhere. Relatively high rates of defaults. Generally, we see higher NPL, higher delinquencies. So that might have impact your provision, impairment level in the business. So you might not be in a kind of in a very great position to undertake bigger businesses in SME when your NPL levels are going up. It's again situational, cyclic, but when you see those things are happening, so you are reluctant. Your top management might tell you, right, it's right time to have a control because NPLs are rising, so you need to recover. So those things you can expect. Higher processing cost due to smaller ticket size. Higher processing cost, right? Because now SME, not like corporates, you might start with 1 million, 2 million, and you can go like 50, 60 million. But you can't say that I'm not going to do 10 million, 15 million below, right? So then I'm only focusing above 15 million kind of, that's not practical. But when you undertake even 1 million loan, the cost, transaction cost, processing cost are more or less similar when you undertake in a 10, 15 million line facility. So still that even you say the higher processing cost, you can't charge exorbitant prices for SME, even 1 million client. So then you are at a losing end. So you need to make a balance, right? How much I might go for the, smaller tickets, but depending on your location, your branch, you might have to accommodate those things also, right? If it is Colombo, probably you might get most of the facilities about 10, 15 million. But if you are in Monoragala, almost all the facilities could be below maybe 10 million or so. So then you need to have some strategies like, portfolio management, portfolio lending, different, things that you need to come up, to manage those situations. But in general, we say a cost of processing, cost of transactions are higher because the lower ticket size in terms of SME funding. Unreliable financials, because we can say these are not fair, transparent, not audited, right? There are a couple of accounts like, personal or tax purposes, or maybe for the, banks, right? So like that, they have, different set of financials they prepare. So then, as banks that you don't know in a question, you are unable to assess their financial performance and the positions. Management depth and key man risk, very important, because maybe one person running the business takes bold decisions and then very quick and without going to detail, they make decisions are a bit of concern. Right? Then owner to business. We have so many examples. Suddenly that owner get died, or maybe due to some reason that he's incapable of running the business. It was a business management knowledge impart kalla nahe anit business ke kaatwa. Right? There's no second level, or maybe the succession plan business. Then very difficult as bankers to figure out how we are going to do financing. Our expectations is to repay them maybe next 3, 4, 5, 6 years. So if they don't have adequate succession. Oh, there's no not enough process to transfer the skills, knowledge, or tacit knowledge especially, then we have some issue. ඒ වගේම තමයි key man risk එක. Since one person taking all decisions, right? There may be decisions could be right or wrong. In an organization like a company, maybe one man not taking every decision, the board of directors. So they, analyze all the information coming from, operational and ground level. They could analyze karala, they take a decision, right? Even they speak with the banks to some extent in terms of company. But in the SMEs, bank decision කරගෙන ඉවර කරලා ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒක රන් කරනකොට තමයි කියන මේ සර් මම මෙන්න එහෙමත් දෙයක් කරා වැඩි හොඳට යනවා. හරි. Sometimes you might have experience, right? It's a classic example. Actually, this is a real life example. So we have funded, when I was at NDB, we have funded a big hotel, maybe sometime 20 years back or so. So it was a condition saying that, without consent of the bank, the hotel or the management cannot appoint general manager. So as for initial approval, so even one of our representatives was on the interview board, and so we hired a general manager for that particular hotel. So now after 6 months, so we together with manager, and so we visited, and then we found, we spoke with the owner, and then can we meet the general manager? So he introduced somebody. So then my manager basically asked, oh, so we haven't met, so you are not so and so. So probably then the owner was mentioning, yes, we have fired him, and this is the second general manager that in the hotel. So what happened was, original manager was fired, and they have had another one during the 6th one. He also was fired. A third one has been in the seat. So we never know that. Technically, they can't do it as per the offer letter and agreement, but they have done it. That's how the SME is. So luckily, the business was running, and there was no, nothing to complain, because he's a capable person, to our understanding at that time. So, but as per the, the rules, they can't do it. That's how the one person taking all the decisions, right? But now, though later we challenge it, sometimes he might listen or might not listen. So critical situation when one person takes all decisions, and we as banks, we have to depend on the particular individual. So we call key man risk. So these are the issues faced by the banks, right? We also need to know, right now, in terms of SMEs, they have some issues. In terms of bank, finance companies, we also have some issues, because these things we need to manage if we to undertake SME financing, right? Any questions? Now we know issues faced by SMEs. On the other side, issues faced by the banks. So it's up to you. Over to you now. Ask questions, get further clarification, have your feedbacks for the betterment of other colleagues in the forum. So it's over to you. Any questions? මේ වගේ ප්‍රශ්න ඔයගොල්ලන්ට ඇවිල්ලා තියෙනවද? Have you experienced these type of issues when you're undertaking micro or big, small business lending? Have you come across these things? And if so, how you manage those things? Experience. Have you come across these issues like financials are not in order? Kasun? Ganeshan, Tilini, Panchana? What is your experience? Have you come across these type of issues like key man risk, not enough succession plan, unexpected financials? Eva, any luxury, any idea, any feedback? Have you come across these sort of issues? Speak up. Make it an hari waraddak naha. This should be more interactive ne. Mono hari ogolan hitena deyak, එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයගොල්ලෝ experience කරපු දෙයක්. It's good that we can, speak up here. එතකොට අපිට ඒකෙදි සමහරවිට we might as a team we can come up with a solution how we to manage those things. කොහොමද මේ වගේව දැන් ඔයගොල්ලෝ කරලා ඇත්තේ? If the client is not producing formal financials, කොහොමද ඔයගොල්ලෝ ඒ client to evaluate කරන්න ඇත්තේ? That's issue no we discussed here. So if the customer does not provide a clear title land, what you have done? ඒ ඉඩම මොකොත් එපා කියලා අයින් කරනවද? එහෙම නැත්නම් වෙන මොනවා හරි මාර්ගයකින් ඒ ඉඩම අපි උකසක් හැටියට තියාගන්නවද? What you have done? Any real life examples? Sumit, please speak up, because this is the platform that we need to share our views. Because otherwise, I just go through the slides and it's a one-sided. So that's not the understanding. So last week we briefed, right? We need to practice. We need to apply whatever we learn in real life. Then only it's a win-win sort of a solution. Anything? Just tell what are the problems you associated with and how you manage. Ganesha? Pilini? Ukut nahe prashna ඇත්තෙම නැහැ.
No, sir. Sometimes we meet customers. They maintain separate income details for the banks and personal needs, and also tax purpose. Then we have to select the most suitable financial statement based on that three financials.
Very good. So yes, it's a very practical situation Sumit was outlining, because they, as I was just telling, we say we are not in a position to accept the financial provided by the client. ඇයි ඇත්තටම කිව්වොත් Sumit was spot on, because they maintain several types of financials. Even to understand that, Sumit, we might have to have a very good relationship with the customer. නැත්තම් එයා කියන එකක් නැහැ. මේක මම ටැක්ස් වලට, මේක මම ගෙදර මොන මහත්තයාට, මේක මගේ වැඩ කරන කට්ටියට, මේක බැංකුවට කියලා එයා එක කියන එකකුත් නැහැ. Right? So that's what as bankers we need to develop. අපි ගොඩක් ඒ relationship එක හදාගත්තාම he might tell මහත්තයෝ මෙන්න මෙහෙම තමයි මගේ කීප જાතියක් තියෙනවා. මම මේ තියාගන්නේ මෙන්න මේකට. Then as Sumit mentioned, it's our the knowledge and the skill is to select what is the best out of this. Right? It's a challenge. And with the relationship, you might get an idea. Just to add on that, what you could do is, we can, validate. Then when the customer provides some information to you, you can validate that numbers are correct. So there are several sources. Example, he might say, so I produce this much of number, so you can cross-check with their capacity. So he might say 50,000 units per month, 600,000 units per annum. We produce that. So that's my top line. So that is the turnover that he is indicating. And then what you could do is, how much, what's your capacity? Machine kiyyak tiyanawada? Machine එකක කොච්චර පුළුවන්ද? Full day එකක් කරොත් කොහොමද? Shift වලටද කරන්නේ? Right? මාසෙකට කොච්චර නිවාඩු තියනවද? So what I'm trying to do is, you try to validate whether he can produce 50,000 units per month. එතකොට ඔයාගේ හැටියට එන්නේ කොට එන්නේ 30,000, you are not going to argue with. All right, that's okay. He is telling 50,000, but as per you, this in the 90% to 100% capacity, it's like 40, but generally it's not 100% always. So we'll say 30,000 unit per month. So this is what customer says, but this is as per my observation. So this is what he can maximum achieve. And then we can see how much he generate in terms of turnover. Similarly with the expenses, you cross-check with what he says and what you see. You speak to the operation manager, you speak to the labor there, they provide also different sources of information. Right? This is the actual capacity, this is the actual expenses. Right? So that's, you should be smart enough. DSCR, interest cover and everything you find, but when you approve a loan, then you have to pay right? So might not be easy if you go with his numbers only. That is a challenge. Sumit Kiwage, to understand what is the correct financial statement, even after that, A numbers validate karaganda tapiyon. Right? Another way that you can cross-validate is just he provides some numbers, details of come. You do a kind of back of the envelope calculation about asset and liabilities. What are the assets? Roughly, what's the purchase value? Other value you understand. And stocks, what's the highest, what is the minimum, right? Seasonal. So then you just get an idea about assets, current assets, and then you can call a crib. You can see what your liabilities are. Right? You know what's the net worth of the client also. Right? You know the liabilities, you know the assets, then you have some net worth idea about the client. It's pretty important. Like net worth negative net worth very positive the higher net worth, so that's good, right? Because whatever he has earned from the business, he invested in the business, right? Not under his name. Maybe spouse, maybe their son and daughter. That's okay, because it's a typical SME. If you are trying to do a balance sheet, then I may land and building this factory, but he has so many liabilities. Debt equity 80-20. So then we are in trouble. So because as per the regulation, debt equity should be 60 or 40, 60-40. Beyond that, then I need to keep it how we are going to do the financing. Right? So like that. So we need to understand, and we need to have some different methods to manage these problems. A practical perspective we have to do. Yes, good to learn this, but when you go to the field, when you go to the bank, you need to understand, right? Customer is giving the financial. We know for obviously, as what we learn here also, these are improper. These are not transparent. Right? We can't depend on this financial. We need to do something to validate these financials. Because why? Based on this, we need to approve a loan. The customer has to repay the loan. For that, we need to do something. That's what we're trying to do. Maybe verify, maybe validate. After different sources, make a cross-check. Right? Maybe turnover, you validate with capacity. Factory performance. You might check with the market. Right? Then customer market you might need to check with some of the existing customers. Right? He's a market leader. Just a feeler. Yeah, market leader. Yes, they have a higher market capacity. Even is like 10-15%. You know what total market is something this much. In a particular area, I'm telling SMEs are not island-wide, no. So probably that though he producing 50,000, his market is 30,000. Even 50,000 machine because what he can produce maybe 50, but he can sell only 30. Then why not you go with the low scale machine? Client. So if you go the 50,000 capacity machine, which is costly at this time, this is not really useful to the business. Why not do for the second type, second hand, or maybe a lower level capacity machine? Maybe another 3 years time you can upgrade to the next level. That's as a banker that you can suggest it. Those are the issues that we need to counter. නැත්නම් එයා කියන එකම අපි කළ වැඩකුත් නැහැ. අපි loan එක ලොකුවට දෙන්න ඕනේ මෙහෙම කියලා දීලා ඉවර වෙලා if he doesn't have the market, where he's going to sell this? ඒක stagnate වෙ මෙතන stocks. Obsolete way. That's a stock loss එක. Then you need to fund it that as well. So those are some of the issues. I mean, just take some of one or two things I want to highlight. That's what we have to do in more practical perspective. The issues are there. The issues කියලා maybe textbook exercise එකක් මෙතන කරාට වැඩක් නැහැ. We need to understand the issue and what's a remedy. What's a practical solution that we can give as bankers. Right. Now we go to the high level solution. As an institution, as a bank, we can do. But then individually, yes, we do. That's operational level that I was just suggesting one or two examples. But when it comes to the practical, when it comes to the operational, that's not enough. We don't go to strategic level approaches as a bank, as a financial institutions. Right? What are those? Introduce project development principle-based lending. That is a thing that we can introduce, like venture capital we just mentioned. Instead of traditional banking, business financing, it's good that if we can develop a project financing, a development-based financing, where you can, think about the future potential of the client. You groom the client to the next level. You see the feasibility of the business in next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So based on that, you try to do financing. Bit of difficult, a complex type of banking, but this is what a country needs, entrepreneur needs. Ar හැම වෙලේම කරන buying and selling business එකට වඩා try to do something new, different products, different service, innovative with R&D input there. You do something for the value addition to the economy. More employment opportunities. It helps to import substitutes. It helps to generate export. Eva and api, if you take say coir, normally coir api fiber husk arගෙන coir produce කරලා එකෙන් ලණු හරි මොන හරි හදන එකකට වඩා you try to do value addition and think about the exports. හැබැයි ඒකට you need some land, a factory, bit of high-tech machines, bit of skilled labor. එතකොට ඒක ටිකක් different level එකක්, different project එකක්. And so the repayment also coming for the future. ඒතර ඒක project oriented lending එකක්, development oriented lending එකක්. So we need to move to that level. Yes, we have to do existing banking practices, existing products. In addition, we need to go to the next level, bit of higher risk-taking initiatives. Set up SME banking unit centers in major cities of the branches, because now we call SME centers. Those things will be learned in a little while, where bank provide SME centers, not Colombo, branches, outside Colombo, rural areas, where the entrepreneurs can come and experience, gather knowledge in terms of SME business. එතෙන්දී අපිට ICT support එක දෙන්න පුළුවන්, market facilitation එක දෙන්න පුළුවන්, financial sort of bookkeeping වගේ දේවල් ටිකක් අඩු ගන්නන්න පුළුවන්, negotiation වගේ soft skills දේවල් කියලා දෙන්න පුළුවන්. So many things you can impart. It's rather than they come to center and learn, they now try to learn it from the goal, Matara, Kurunagala. So the regional presence, right? So you provide a service. Kind of a CSR, but it's a long-term win-win, because then the customer enriched with this business skills, business acumen. Eva hoyagannakotta egonda hari lazy futuristic thinking වලට යනවා. If they know how to go to web, how to search markets, how to interact with the foreign buyers, and how to compare the products kind of thing, and what are the innovative products used by the global players. So ඒවා ඒගොල්ලෝ දැක්කම they take what's the local input. ඒක අරගෙන එයා ගෙදර ගිහිල්ලා ඒ ගෙදර project එකට input එකක් දානවා. Then they come up with different It's a local version, but it's compatible. Promote business management practices among SMEs. Something which we need to, again, train them on business management practices. We talk about negotiation, leadership, motivation, and then sort of interpersonal, right? How to do business better, not the traditional. You try to, train them, right? So sometimes then they are in a capacity to compete with even foreign players. Sometimes about, communication skills. They might not be very good, but, that's a soft skill. Probably they might not willing to, go to classroom. They are not, happy. They might say that fear to failure. So that's what they feel. But, anyway, able to train karma business management skills, how to negotiate a deal. So they get the confidence, because obviously they know they have the skill. Knowledge practically practice karla how come they have become the best entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka? Soft skills business management they are not very good at. As a collective to train them, impart them. Venture capital arms. If we can have venture capital arms within the banks, it's got a separate venture capital unit where you take a higher risk compared to day-to-day banking, a traditional banking arm. Because you say this is a 2 billion under you, so you can go and hire maybe on board SME clients with new projects, with R&D input, innovative, high risky. Then there you have a better chance. I mean, SMEs has a better chance to get the funding. Normal banking, normal financing company, there's a chance of getting funds because they are maybe the startups. Right? They have a good business proposition, but they don't have adequate funding. Venture capital again, business plan approach. So we discussed the business plan in detail a little bit later. So that's another one where you try your clients to come up with a business plan, right? So when it comes to business plans, everything is in that document. Everything is in a plan in a way more strategically, right? Fail when the risk right? So those are the things that one has to look into in a very macro perspective that I am briefing here. Remedies, solutions from the bank. In addition, we just mentioned on providing answers to Sumit points. So there are that you can operational level what you could do. Then and velema bankuwakim හැමදේම කොලයක දාලා එන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. නමුත් අපිට පුළුවන් day to day engagements වලින් විතරක් ඒ clients have next level එකට ගේන්න. Right. Any questions up to now? Ganeshan, Taksri, Kasu. Anything that you do at your bank as some solutions to these issues? What are the things you have done? I have seen that you are very much inactive in ICT platform, right? So you have tie up with several payment gateways, and I've seen your CEO mainly in working with Lanka Kivar as the head of that. So basically, you try to promote more ICT techniques among the micro, small type of clientele. It's a very good initiative. See the time that you are going to save. See the speed of the converting. See the improved collection. Right? See how that you promote the e-commerce through this small app called phone. I mean, so many initiatives. Nobody would have thought, right? In a remote village, seller who is doing some vegetable store, right? Having a vegetable store, right? Operating in a kind of a phone to do some banking transaction. See how beautiful, right? See how the quick and transparent, and how you are managing the cash flows. I mean, those are like very great initiatives. Right? Even many banks, I mean, very top banks should consider before you. But I think you have done a wonderful job by reaching those communities. Then they know that they can do this. They are very comfortable then. They say it's not a big deal. And now phone is not only for the taking a call. Some smart applications. ඒවා ගොඩක් වැඩ කරන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. ඒතරම අපිට හරි lazy. And then you say maybe 20 odd people, if you're trying to deploy a person to collect some monthly dues. Now with this, easily, they can deposit, withdraw through a phone, right? Transaction over the phone කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතර අපි මොකක් හරි ගමකට යනකොට බලන් හදා ඉන්නවා. ඉතින් අපි හිතමු එතන ඒ බලන් ටික අපි ගන්නකොට අපි සල්ලි ටිකක් දෙනවට වඩා අපි මොන හරි ඇප් එකකින් පේමන්ට් එක කරනකොට හිතන්න. The person is not getting the money from you. So we are not giving the money to her or him. අපි වැඩක් කරගන්න. Funds at a bank, interbank transfers. So automatically, savings deductions can happen for their facilities they have obtained. See the the level that you have grown. I mean, the confidence level of those people also has grown now. I mean, නැත්තම් විනිසල් ටික ගන්නවා, හවස බැංකුවකට යනවා, නැත්නම් ඒක වහලා තියෙනවා, ඊළඟ දවසේ යනවා, ආය දානවා, ආය ගන්නවා. I mean, it's cumbersome work. So I mean, so that's again we have promote financial discipline among these small players. That's what we have done. That's a solution. One of the solutions we can give them to address many problems. Financial discipline automatically then හැදෙලා තියෙනවා. So in terms of no track record in terms of P&L balance sheet performance, but then මේක එකම තියෙනවානේ. දවසක ආදායම්, සතියක ආදායම්, මාසක ආදායම්. And එතකොට ඒකේ සල්ලි ටිකක් ගන්නකොට අපි දන්නවා some to the personal, some to the business, but we can approximate. සෑහෙන දෙයක් කරගන්න බැරිද අපිට? So that's what you all have done through whatever the new ICT platforms. I think many banks are trying to do it, but I think that's a kind of next level of banking. Very easy, especially touching these small players and with these ICT devices. Right. Any further inputs? Any thoughts? Anything you can add? මොන හරි ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද සුමිත්, ගණේෂන්, ලක්සිරි, කසුන්? ගොඩක් මේවා theory වගේ තමයි, but I just want to bit more practical rather than we just කියවගෙන යනවට වඩා we try to share our experience. Sumit actually has come up with very good points, and a couple of you also introduced the earlier mention. So that's what I expect, because otherwise this anyway boring, just to issues, solutions kind of thing, more theoretical stuff. But what we need to do is, yes, we try to understand the problem and we have to develop a solution, right? So then it could be, you can go to the next level. You can, go to the mass market. Individual solution provided by your branch, and then could replicate to other branches also, because it's workable, right? That's we need to, do it, because rather than coming from the top, this is what we discuss in the top bottom approach. Development banking, SME banking units, right? Venture capital, those are a top-down approach. But from down to top is something that you will have to do, like in a business plan could be a down to top. මොකද දැන් අපි පල්ලිහා ලෙවල් එකේ මේක ප්‍රොමෝට් කරලා හදන දෙයක ප්‍රතිඵලයක් තමයි you are trying to onboard good clients with lesser problems. අර කියපු issues ටික අඩු කරගන්න අපි කොහොමද කරන්න කියන එක තමයි අපි bankers ලා හැටියට අපි කළ යුත්තේ. Okay. Right. Then we try to understand the business plan concept. Because I know many of you know this, but it's good that you learn in a bit of length here. Once you know this, so you can tailor-made it to your branch, your customers in a way that is practical. Then business plan is good for even the corporate clients. They prepare business plan. Project financing, development financing, they do business plan. We call project report. SME type of guys also do the business plan, but different version. But here I try to, give a conceptual idea what is the business plan, and then it's up to us to tailor it made to our clients' suitability. A business plan is a written document which prepared by a firm's management to summarize its operational and financial objectives in medium term and to show how they will be achieved their said objectives. So it's done by the promoter, sponsor, entrepreneur. If it's a company, it's run by the management team or maybe outside consultancy team, right? Maybe advisory capacity. Even come to the SME, maybe the owner can produce this. So basically he outlined how her financial objectives in medium term and operational objectives, how he conduct the business. Because it's a very good written document. When the client comes with the business plan to seek financing, so it's very good for you to understand, what he's going to do, what he's going to achieve in next few months. It serves as a blueprint to guide the firm's policies and strategies, and is continually modified when conditions are changed and new opportunities and threats are emerge. What it mentioned is, now you have a vision, mission, objectives in general in big companies. Similarly, even SME type of financing, they have a vision, mission, though not articulated, not outlined. They know what should I do next 5 years, next 10 years. So they have some vision. Not in a document. But this document gives a more formal perspective to this vision, mission, objectives. The beauty is that you can change this. Then if you say that my mission or vision is to become so and so, about the COVID situation, I might have to change it. So what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats, I will change my business plan. Now I am not telling that sometimes I might have totally changed my business model. Earlier, the person to person sale. No, not the person to person or retail selling is maybe 20% of my business now. I am now promoting e-commerce. Online COVID card. I can promote and practice them. Customer might be looking at that angle. In terms of cash flows, it's better to you. Then e-commerce you get the funds upfront. In a cash flow perspective, that's also good. But in the retailing, wholesaling, you provide, they sell it, they give it after 50-60 days. Cash flow is risky. So that's how you change your business plan now. Model, operational model. That also could be a new paradigm in the business plan. That also could be accommodated. When it's prepared by external parties like lenders, prospective investors, it details the past, present, and forecasted performance of the firm, right? Though similarly, like if you take internal or external, so you try to see how my historical, how my present, and how my future business model, business performance. This is easy because now when you say historically, I am doing so much to these levels, and at present I am, in these ranges, and future I might go to these levels. So you can see a comparison whether you go to this level in the future. Is it a practical, right? If you are using the same technology, same platform, is it a probability? So you might have to have discussions with your promoter, sponsor, entrepreneur on the business plan. Key components: balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement, how the financing being sought will affect the firm's financial position. So in a business plan, you see these financial performance and position statements. Historically, you have these P&L balance sheet cash flows. Current, we say management P&L balance sheet cash flows, and forecasted P&L balance sheet cash flows also there. So with that, you can get an idea whether what his financial capacity, whether how much he can borrow, how much he can repay, what's the debt equity, right? What's a long-term to short-term ratio, right? How much is the income to expenses ratio? So many things will be projected based on some assumptions. Those things anyway can change, like, a kind of a situation, everything has to be revisited, but it's a starting document, right? So that's what generally a business plan is. What are the major components? What is the purpose, right? So is it good to have a business plan for a SME client? So all are a bit of a discussion point in this slide. I let you invite, if you have any questions, please raise, right? This is very good concept that everybody can make this useful in our day-to-day banking. Sometimes you say in a company, business plan could be like 20, 30 pages. Maybe SME, it's maybe 5 to 6 pages, doesn't matter. Only thing, how he tells, how he articulate, what should be my business model in terms of operational, in terms of financial, in next 2 years, next 3 years, next 4 years. Every times we can change it, but it's good that he is owning it, he's preparing it, because he know that he's going in this direction. Why should I do this? If I'm going to do this, what exactly I am getting? What is my financial capacity? What's my operational capacity to be there to support that financial targets? When you are trying to prepare that document. Management, what are the technical support that I should get? Right? It's not exactly correct. Especially this is a versatile and very competitive world. If you are not going to do at least this type of pre-preparation, a blueprint type of a thing, might have bigger issues when you are trying to operationalize. Then market research R&D we are trying to open up. Once we open up, once we capture the market, there may be a giant restaurant company, for example. They can replicate the same operations in a day or two. So we'll wipe out all businesses. Focus these are our competitors, these are the possible things. Business model who should be target market? Probably we might not have been impacted to that extent. Somebody would replicate it with the better resources. So that's the importance of having a document like this. Give me a second, just read this and we'll come in a second. So we will see the importance of the business plan, right? Currently, banks realize the importance of the business plan from the entrepreneurs or the borrowers, since the banks shall take to consider the project requesting for credits from the banks, whether how much for its viability, reasonableness or not. So basically, when you ask the client to provide the business plan, it is important for us as bankers to see whether the project, whether the business venture, whether the credit request is feasible, viable, how reasonable the particular request is, because we have documentary evidence to what he is going to do, right? Rather than just providing financing. When you come up with the business plan, so for us as bankers, it's important and it's good kind of a document to assist the client business viability, requirement, reasonableness. By considering the business plan, the bank shall be able to decide whether the bank should support on such credit or not. And business plan right, make a risk appetite make a fund fund right? The bank also can decide what type of credit and the value of the credit should provide. Amount, the condition, type of credit, and most of the things could be decided based on this business plan. Bank also can understand the ability of the debt repayment of the client. In addition, the conditions with repayment plan, how long have to be considered in order to comply with the type of business, operation description, and actual financing requirements. Which is basically, it's a snapshot of client business requirement in future. Right? By going through this, we are in a position to understand how much the client needing, under what capacity, and what operational condition, and what financial conditions. So it's a very good document to make your life easier. Okay, so that's the importance of the business plan for bankers. May not relevant to a very small type of borrowers like microfinancing, but small level, medium level, higher, and even the corporate level, a business plan is a very good source document for us to depend, us to analyze the client financing requirement. Okay. These are some of the things that you see in a business plan. A feasibility of the project. What do you understand by the feasibility? The bank shall consider that the project to invest are incapable to succeed or to meet its goals, determined or not, it's capable to make real in the current and future situation or not, or how. The feasibility. When you say feasibility, let's say the client, right, now coming and asking a credit facility to open a, say, small or medium type of restaurant in your area. Okay, right now, what you need to ensure is there are several viability or feasibility exercise on this proposal. What are those? කාටර කියන්න පුළුවන්ද දැන් ක්ලයන්ට් කෙනෙක් එනවා එයා කියනවා මට මෙහෙමයි මම කැමති Pereira and Sons වගේ type එකේ restaurant එකක් open කරන්න. එතකොට what are the areas, I mean very high level අපි කතා කරොත් when you say feasibility of the project කියලා කතා කරොත් what are the things that you should look into in like in a bigger way viability කියලා කිව්වොත් මොනවද අපිට දැනගන්න ඕනේ client එකේ. Can you suggest? ඒක වැරදුනාට කමක් නැහැ. Let me get an idea and then we discuss. Yeah, Ganesh.
Operation area.
Operation area, yes. Maybe you are locating, yeah, and what is your like client base kind of thing, right?
Experience capacity.
Experience capacity, yes. That's about a bit of management. What are the rest?
Entrepreneurs, other engagements.
Entrepreneurs, other engagement. That's also we can link to the management.
Existing market.
Yes, very good, Ruan. Market, existing market, proposed target market. Right. Competition. Very good, very good. That's about market. Kanchana and some suggested about management. Ganesh and mainly talk about operation. That's about technical. තව මොනවද තියෙන්නේ අපිට? අපි නිකන් ක්ලස්ටර් කරා top level එකකින් feasibility කියලා කිව්වහම areas තමයි අපි බලන්නේ කියලා. What are the rest? Management, market, technical.
Cost of the project.
Pardon? Madhushika?
Cost of the project.
Cost of the project, yes, good point. Very good point.
Infrastructure of the project.
Yes, infrastructure, about location, land, accessibility, other utility facilities. That's could be a sum to the technical Ganeshan. Yeah, Kanchana?
Opportunities in the market.
Pardon, Ruan?
Opportunities in the market.
I'm not getting, I'm here, not hearing.
Opportunities in the market.
Opportunities, yes, right. That's about market again. What are the threats? Opportunities, right? What is we are missing here big time? මොකක් හරි එකක් අපිට තවම කියුන්නේ නැහැ. ඔව් කාංචනා.
Profitability.
මොකද? Profitability, right? ඒක දුවා කිව්වේ.
Yes.
Financial contribution.
Yes, financial contribution. Equity පැත්ත මොකද්ද? Somebody was telling something මට තේරුන්නේ නැහැ. පිළිනි හරි මොකද්ද කියන්නේ?
Legal conditions.
Legal condition, very good. Yes, that's about legal capacity. Kanchana was telling about profitability.
Competitors.
Huh?
Yes. Competitors.
Yes, competitors, we can do the market.
Strength and weakness of the project.
Yes, strength weaknesses කියන එකත් අපිට ඇත්තටම මේ Ganeshan strength and weaknesses we are trying to use to assess the feasibility of each, right? So the strength weaknesses කිව්වහම ඒක ඊට ටිකක් උඩින් එන්නේ. When you say market, when you say management, when you say technical, ඒ හැම එකේම අපි strength weaknesses බලලා we try to understand risk. But ඊට වඩා වෙනස් ටිකක් තමයි දැන් අපි මේ කතා කරේ, which is also correct. But one Siri was coming with a very good point, and one Siri was telling me net cash flows. Right, that's a very good point. Now I am about to come to that. Nobody was telling me about financial feasibility. Then අපිට cash flow එක ඕනේනේ. Net cash flow is important for you to repay the debts, right? Where are the existing financial capacity, propose the pro forma financial capacity, the cash flow like net cash flows, or profitability, debt equity ratio, those are important. So technically, you are telling me everything. We talk about management capacity or management feasibility. We talk about marketing feasibility. We talk about legal feasibility. Tilimi was to tell me about legal feasibility. Ganeshan was mostly talking about technical. And then one series come up with the financial side. These are the feasibilities that we are talking of. So if we are to provide this funding, the business plan should include all those feasibilities in different degrees. We are not going to talk about very detailed each feasibility, but since that discussion is open for here, when you say about financial feasibility, we try to see whether the particular client, how he was doing his financing in the past, and how he's doing right now if he's existing businessman, and what could be the future pro forma. Very important. මොකද ඒ ඔක්කොම දැනගත්තාම තමයි අපි දකින්නේ what is ratio, P&L ratio, balance sheet ratio. So there are so many things that we need to ensure. Loan එක ගත්තාම repay කරන්න පුළුවන් ද බලා ගන්න documents ටික තමයි අපි ඔය කියන්නේ financial feasibility. Then come to the technical. Infrastructure, the utility, and the other land building, location, parking. I mean, even the production, process, layout, people, everything is important, right? How you packaging, how you display this thing. So very important. Because restaurant, though it's small, because the people come and buy things for their eating purposes. The quality, like how you manage the place, right? Whether that you have parking to maybe drive-through purchase, home delivery, internet purchase, online. හැම එකක්ම අපිට important. Because when you say technically, you try to put those things, and rather than you just having a discussion without a document, when you have a discussion with the document, everything is in place. So make it more correct. It's easy to understand. Then we are asking about drive-through කරන්නේ නැද්ද? නැත්නම් home delivery නැද්ද? නැත්නම් online delivery නැද්ද? එහෙම නැත්නම් whether you say pay and go එකක් විතරද ඔයාගේ තියෙන්නේ. In-house dining නැද්ද? So everything may be important. Maybe your competitors may have it. Then go to the market. How many players right now? What is the present competition? Right? And who are the franchises operating? So McDonald's are able to operate another kittu, like Renaissance kind of. So then the competition could be different. What is your target market? Are you to go to the top or middle or the bottom, or maybe the mix of that? What's like opening hours from morning to evening, the night? Are you catering all 3 meals? Whether to, rice and curry to other the product type? Have you done any bit of R&D, any market research? Right? Who are your suppliers? Who are the buyers? What's the arrangement with the suppliers? But buyers anyway, it's like maybe passerby. Do you try to offer maybe the institutions? Right? You understand? And now when you say in general, I want a loan and kind of loan application, when you see a client come up with the business plan, including these things, then you see everything out of it. You can add so many value to that. He also come up with different, value addition to that proposal. එතකොට අපිට තේරෙනවා මේක very transparent. හැම දෙයක්ම check කරනවා. And then come to what Ganeshan was telling about strengths and weaknesses. ඇත්තටම these are the tools that we use to evaluate these feasibilities. In marketing වල අපි බලනවා what are the positives of the client is having. What are the negatives of the client is having. What are the opportunities? What are the threats? අර SWOT එකක් ඒකට අපිට දාන්න පුළුවන්. Then we see right now, market is risky, highly competitive. Sometimes we might not advise to open up a restaurant. When we make business plan, no, it's not worthwhile. But that high end, the client, whatever the location, the area that we are going to cover is maybe 5 kilometer radius. No point of coming. Having another one. So that might tell client to not to proceed with because of these reasons. Competition when you do analysis on the market, you can have a better view to a client, convincing view to the client. Because of this, it's not advisable. Right? Hope you get it. Then about financial, we spoke about management. It's about the capacity, skill, knowledge, experience, exposure towards this project, toward this business. Like then, Mama, I have some money and then, I want to start if I don't have any experience toward the food industry, probably as a banker, you might say, then it's your next suggestion. With experience that open maybe I am very good at say rice milling or very good at garment industry, very good at ICT. About food industry, I don't have anything to say. It might not be acceptable to the bank. How you find out that is because under my management evaluation, I might say this is what my positives, this is my qualification, this is my skills, this is my experience. This might be business related. This is my exposure in during different areas. You might come and say, no, yes, that's good, but you're yet to get. So we might not be comfortable on your experience. How you get that is basically business because of these feasibilities. Hope you have gotten some idea about the value and of the business plan in terms of implementation. Total investment value. The bank shall consider whether the value of the investment is reasonable or not to the type of business with the income expected to receive by consideration from the current size of business and expected to grow in the future. So that basically this the plan that you are going to do is a business, the project that you are going to undertake, whether amount that a bank is going to give would be repaid over the expected income. That gives a link. Or how we are going to repay that, right? initially you are paying this much and later you step up. So those things will be in the next level. Flexibility or reserve plan. If there is a condition of outer factors, both good or bad, beyond the entrepreneur's control to affect, then the business can adjust itself to such factors and it shall affect the total sales of the business and how the capacity of repayment of the bank or not. So something, right? Because then there is plan B, right? What could happen if things are not coming in this way? If we have to go to this level, what should be the next course of action? How we do the operations? How we are going to repay the debt, kind of thing. So those things are originally decided, then decide at the time of happening. So that's the beauty of the business plan. Right? So we think that, right, so this is your plan, maybe second year, third year. If you see that the increase, what should be your plan after 2 years? You try to plan it right now. What are the things that you should do right now? Maybe sinking fund, savings build up, right? So you save something as equity. Bank also now willing to support you maybe after 2 years, 3 years. For that, banks also tell you these things you have to do. We can do for the next level financing. Right. We say that business plan is this, its component, its importance for the client, for the bank. Why not for the business plan? Clients la business plan agree with that. Why they are not comfortable? Why even banks are not encouraging this? Why? There are some reasons for that also. We try to learn. Right? It could be useful for us to at least to convince, at least to adopt some of these concepts when you do day-to-day banking. They don't understand how beneficial a plan is. So that's a question. Generally, there is a communication gap. Maybe we also don't know what the business plan, the value. Client obviously not. So we might not have adequately briefed the value of the business plan, importance of the business plan to the client. So probably he might not interested. So make a value breaker, then we can help the client to prepare the business plan. It's a win-win solution. It is widely acknowledged that the planning in the beginning is incredibly beneficial and can greatly increase your survival rate. So that's common concept or phenomena where if you try to plan it from the beginning or start the end in your mind, it's a concrete, a confirmed way forward. Here also similar. අපි මුලදී plan කරගෙන මේ වැඩේ පටන් ගත්තොත් අපි දන්නවා අපිට වෙන්න තියෙන දරුණුම දේ මොකක්ද? හොඳම දේ මොකක්ද? අතරමැදි දේ මොකක්ද? Because when you undertake business plan, ඒක financing option එකේදී, financial forecast එකේදී we are trying to do a worst case scenario, a best case scenario and base case scenario under different assumptions. So ඒවා කරනකොට අපි දන්නවා අපිට වෙන්න තියෙන අමාරුම වෙලාවේ අපේ මොකද්ද අපේ turnover එක, අපේ cash flow එක, අපේ debt servicing capacity එක අපි දැනගන්න. එතකොට so that we should be ready at the inception, at the outset. එහෙම වුණොත් මම මේක scale down කරනවා, මම මේක outsource කරනවා, මම මේක rent එකට දෙනවා, and all those things you decide at the outset. දැන් එහෙම කරලා මම නිකන් ඉන්නේ නැහැ. So I have some plans for that. In case if I'm not happening, right? එහෙම වුණොත් මට මගේ වෙන ඉඩමක් තියෙනවා, මම ඒක මේවා කරලා මෙතෙන්ට දෙයක් කරනවා. නැත්නම් මම outsource කරන්න මම try to find some investors. ඒක මම දැම්ම start කරනවා. With the investor you are not trying to find the outsource only. Maybe when you growing up, you can bring the investor and grow to the next level. So ඒක හැබැයි ඔය දැම්ම කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ඒක වෙනකන් විතර කරන්න කිව්වොත් not be easy. ඒක වගේ එක plan එකක්. Organically grow වෙනවද? Inorganically grow වෙනවද කියන එක plan එකක්. So ඒකවා plan කරොත් විතරයි you can achieve that benefit in at the point of time it's happening. Business plan is your chance to see where your deficiencies are and correct them before failure. That's what I'm telling. If you see that, right now only 4 guys are in the market. I am the 5th one. So I need to manage the competition. Then මම ඒකනේ කරන්නේ. මම ගිහිල්ලා 100% market එක මට ගන්න බෑ. What I have to do is, so I also have to come up with different products, different offerings, different process to capture existing market. Again, price or offering making, I am managing. Then let's say if the new guys, now it's 7. Make it very big. Competition manage. Then I have to understand, identify my customer base and unique proposition. Like when you say ABC outlet, ABC ABC. So for that, I need to have my strategies developed. I have a clientele. I need to make my product, service unique. That's my sort of a plan. Then, if you have no competitors in the market, then I am fine. I can manage in next 5 years. But when you have competitors in, you are the next team as a 5th and you expect another 2 to come in, probably you need to have different plans. But एक plan करने पर आप कितना दिन मोहदर पनेला पीनंड पटांगंड वातुरे मूल वादिन पर पीनंड कथा हरी अन्य you have to plan it different. අපි දානවද මොන හරි safety kit එකක් ගන්නවද goggles දානවද, right? And those things to be ready prior to jumping the sea. Make it aim. Many small businesses failures can be blamed on the lack of business plan. Small businesses, yes, they fail. Why? Because they don't know what to do in future. What are they going to do in the next year? They just say, I have some money, so start it and see. And just see that, these days you can see many people selling masks, right? Maybe very small players. පාරයිනේ වෑන් එක තියාගෙන නැත්නම් චූටි කාඩ් කෑල්ලක් රෙන්ට් කරගෙන ඉතින් මාස්ක් විකුණගෙන යනවා. එතකොට දැන් මෙයා විකුණනවා දැක්ක ගමන් තව මීටර 20ක් තියන් තව එක්කෙනෙක් විකුණනවා. So we need to anticipate that. මම හොඳ බිස්නස් එකක් කරනකොට අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම තව මීටර 20ක් තියන් තව කෙනෙක් එනවා කියන එක it's not a big deal. So what should I do is I have to plan it in a such a way that a new competitor to come is to make difficult. Difficult business and then I need to find clients, right, who are not dropping me in case the newcomer comes. And the selling proposition business maybe a bit of adequate parking, hygiene factor ensure so you have some delivery, right? You phone call delivery try to capture some institutions. මගේ sourcing එක මම directly ගිහිල්ලා factory එකෙන් source කරගෙන මෙතන විකුණන එක not intermediary guy I am depending. So ඒව තමයි මම කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට මම දන්නවා right even new guy comes මම දැම්ම වික්ක 50ට new guy come in 45 වලට වික්කම I can make it to 30. මම දන්නවා I have that margin. මොකද මම හදාගෙන තියෙන මගේ supply chain එක ඒ විදිහට. Because these type of businesses are easily replicate. හරි මම කරනවා තව කෙනෙකුට කරන්න පුළුවන් ලොකු කැපිටල් එකක් යන්නේ නැහැ. හැබැයි I should manage my business in a such a way that in a case of 2-3 guys come in vicinity, I have my clientele intact. I have my product margin intact. I have my profitability margin intact. ඒ විදිහට මම try කරන්න ඕනේ මේ ක්‍රමේ කරන්න. So that's what we try to do. We try to plan it, start business through a document called, a process called business plan. Second one, may think it takes too long. Most of the businessmen wants to just start and want to deal and find solutions when their problems arose. So because they think, in a planning, in a way of business plan, will take long time. No, it is not. If you plan it properly, the solutions are coming very quickly. If you are not planned, solutions are again come quickly, but not dependable. Not in long-term existence. It could be a problem because you get some short-term solutions which are not exactly matching your problem. So then people have a perception that business plan මේව කරගෙන කල්යන ඕකට ඕක තීරුමක් නෑ ඕක නිකන් outdated document එකක් වෙනවා. So that's the myth perception. ඊට ලේසි මට මේක හරි අහලා මේ වෙලාවට බැංකුවේ ඉන්න මහත්තයෙක් මට මේකක් කරොත් මම ඒ වැඩේ කරනවා. So those are the kind of SME perception. ඒතර අපි ඒක වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ නෑ. business plan එකක් කියන්නේ මේ දවසින් දෙකකින් යන document එකක් නෙවෙයි. It's ongoing document. You can change මෙන්න මේ විදිහට වෙනස් කරන්න ඕනේ. එතකොට it's like eternal document. right? එතකොට ඔයාලා company vision mission වෙනස් වෙන විදිහට මේක වෙනස් වෙනවා. environment එක වෙනස් වෙනකොට මේක වෙනස් වෙනවා. funding වෙනස් වෙනකොට මෙහෙම වෙනස් වෙනවා. So it's a very good document එකක් කියලා ඒක අපි යට කියලා දෙන්න ඕනේ. They don't want to know their ideas and to face the reality. How will you know if your ideas stinks and there is no demand for your product or service? They may think, why do they spend time and money building something that will fail? People that fall into this category don't want to acknowledge that their idea might not be any good and will therefore move forward with no plan because they don't want to face the reality. Or fear of failure කියලා මම කිව්වේ. ඒගොල්ලෝ කැමති නෑ දැන් මම මේක කරලා මේක ෆේල් වුණොත් මෙහෙම කරනවා. ඒක ඒගොල්ලෝ කැමති නෑ. ඒගොල්ලෝ තියෙනවා right. ඔය plan කර ඉන්න දෙයක් නෑ. ඉතින් මම මේක කරනවා I can do කියන. That's okay. Risk taking, gut feelings work. It's worth. That's one of the entrepreneur's quality. But everything has to be backed with a proper plan. So then you end up with win-win. Right? If you know that this product could fail, then you have some counter plans for that. No. If you don't have that, then suddenly you fail. Then there's no point of return. I want to have because competitors like your customers might have move to some others because they know that you are coming down, you are failing. Right? After 3 years, yes, I am going to saturate this market. Maybe go to the next level of restaurant. Go to some other location. Maybe have a replicate it in another one. A different market, different clientele, different location. Make it achieve achieve turnover ඒ turnover එකට අනුව තමයි මම මතන මගේ capacity එක plan කරන්න ඕනේ. machinery ගන්න ඕනේ. මගේ store මේ parking මේ ටික තියලා. එහෙම නැතුව මම බොරු rent එකක් ගෙවලා මෙතන වැඩක් නැහැ. If I see that my annual turnover say 2 million or 3 million or 4 million එහෙමනම් මම rent එක ගෙවන්න ඕනේ ඒකෙන් යම් ප්‍රමාණයක්. දැන් මම ඒක ගිහලා මෙතන rent එක ලක්ෂ 2ක් ගෙවන rent එකක් තියෙන එකක් මෙතන තියාගත්ත කියලා මට වැඩක් තියෙනවා. Because my turnover is about 5 million නම් 2.5 million යනවා නම් මගේ rent එකට විතරක් fixed cost එකක්. Is it worth to me? No. If I make 50 million, yes, that's a 2.5 million for rent is ideal. It's 5% of that. Use parking, AC and all that, so I'll pay for that. Maybe border into a highway or maybe a major town, so that's fine. But if you achieve that, if you are getting 5 million per annum, then why should you pay 200,000 per month for that? It could 50 to 20,000 per month is what that you are planning. What income outlet? Eke godak laata ar on the go wage buying and selling, right? ඒ වගේ එකක් තමයි මම එතන තියන්න ඕනේ. ඒක මට plan කරන්න වෙන්නේ කොහොමද? මේ business plan එක හදාගත්තේ නැත්නම් මම දන්නේ නැහැ නේ. මගේ turnover කොහොමද වැඩි වෙන්නේ? ඒක දන්නේ නැතුව මම ගිහිල්ලා right නියමයි rent එකට අරගෙන හොඳ තැනක් අරගෙන lights දාලා ඔක්කොම කරලා board ගහලා මම ready වෙලා no clients, right? So that's not viable proposition. So that's why I keep start project, keep in your mind. Business plans are confusing. They might think that the preparation of business plan is a burden and overwhelming because many people, many SMEs, due to lack of knowledge or other reason, they think this is a cumbersome, this is a worthless business activity, right? Why should we do? Right? There's no point of this because other guys whom I know are not doing this. And why should I? It's a time taking, tedious task. ඒ විදිහට මිනිස්සු හිතන්න පටන් ගන්නවා. මේක හැදුවාම මටත් තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ මේ මොකද්ද මං කාටද දීලා හදාගන්න මේ ගිහිල්ලා බැංකුවට ගියන් පස්සේ අහන ප්‍රශ්න වලට මට උත්තර දෙන්න බෑ. නිකන් අනවශ්‍ය ප්‍රශ්න. That's what the entrepreneur's mind. Why? Because they don't know exactly value of this. Samala they might not be able to, in a position to prepare this. Hari guideline එක ඇවිල්ලා නැතු වෙන්න පුළුවන්. So that is the kind of a reason they might encountering. එතකොට ඒකට තමයි අපි මේ solutions අපි මේ කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේකේ වටිනාකම. මෙන්න මේක තමයි කල යුත්තේ. මෙහෙම කරනකොට මෙන්න මේවා තමයි benefits. Okay. Any questions up to now? Ganeshan, Tilini, Ruan, Samira, Sumit?
No, sir.
Okay. Anything from Kanchana, Avindi? Hope, I think. Okay. You get a kind of fair knowledge, but I know this is not exactly relevant for the job right now you do, but this is a good practice. You can start it at a small scale, right? Maybe you start with a few of your customers. ඊළඟ business එකට එනකොට ඔයා කියන්නේ මෙන්න මේ areas ටික ඔයා බලන්න. ඔයාගේ financials ටික මෙහෙම බලන්න, market මේ පැත්ත බලන්න, management side එක මෙහෙම බලන්න. So they at least they come up with some data. ඔයාටත් life එක easy, යාටත් easy. There are so many formats that you can find in the business plan. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයගොල්ලන්ගේ ඇත්තටම credit proposal form එක තියෙන්නේ. ඒකම තමයි business plan in customers mind. ඒකේ වා කියනවා introduction එකක් තියෙනවා, background එක ගැන අහනවා, marketing ගැන ටිකක් අහනවා, financial details ටිකක් තියෙනවා, security and operation ටිකක් තියෙනවා. So that is itself is sufficient. What he is going to do in his perspective. ඒ ටික අපිට ආවහම we can find it. දැන් මුකුත් නැතුව මෙහෙම loan එකක් ගන්න මෙහෙම නිකන් loan application එකක් දීලා කිව්වා කියලා ට වඩා හොඳයි. Let him to think. Let him to plan. So he knows, what he's going to do. What's his plan in first year, second year, third year. Then you can add some value. Then you can introduce some suppliers. Then you can give some tips on how to do marketing. Because you might have funded similar guys in and around that area. You know their capacities, how they approach clients. There are good practices, best practices you can impart to your new client. Those are not business secret. That's good that he knows. All right, bank මට බැංකුවේ මහත්තයා මට මෙන්න මේ ටික මට කියනවා. ඒක හොඳයි. මම එහෙම කරන්න ඕනේ. Quality is number 1. ඒතර මම ඒක කොහොමද preserve කරන්නේ? Freedom එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒක ඊළඟට දෙන්න ඕනේ. Convenient could be the number 3. ඒතර ඒව තමයි මගේ values of the business. Right? එහෙම නැත්නම් නිකම්ම මේ ඕන කෙනෙක් මොනවා හරි අරයි කියලා හිතාගෙන මම නිකන් අර king වගේ මේ counter එකේ ඉන්නවා. ඒ model එක දැන් හරියන්නේ නැහැ. He has to come down the seat and cater the customer sometimes. Right? ඕන ඇවිල්ලා අහනවා right මොකද්ද මහත්තයා කෑම කොහොමද අඩුපාඩු තියෙනවද? So those are the feedback he is getting. Maybe clients also willing to give that feedback because the owner is coming and asking. හැබැයි ඒක අහලා ඉවරලා නිකන් ඉඳලා හරියන්නේ නැහැ. You have to practice. Deploy it following day or day after. So then next time comes right. Anything hygiene factors තියෙනවා. dustbin එක හරියට දීලා තියෙනවා. Right? cover කරලා තියෙනවා. product එක මේ විදිහට මේවා කරලා තියෙනවා. So something that you have obtained from your client and you apply. ඒතර ඒ වගේ දේවල් බැංක කෙනෙකුට borrower entrepreneur advice කරන්න පුළුවන්. You should do these things. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි funding ටික කරලා පැත්තකට ඉඳලා පුළුවන්. That is not the business plan funding. Just like traditional funding that we are trying to do. Then, what as bankers, right? What we trying to do through the business plan? මේක ඇත්තටම මේ bit of business plan එකක තියෙන component එක තමයි මේ විදිහට. Awareness of the importance of the business plan and the information need to be included in the business plan. Educating the easiness of preparation of a plan, basic elements need to be included in the business plan are. These are some of the things that you can ask the client. It's a kind of a format. Provide these things based on his knowledge. Take a single in the English in whatever way. It doesn't make a big issue. Then we can improve, work on that. Than giving anything, just providing whatever the information in a kind of more organized manner will add value. We make life easy for both parties. Nature of the business, management, ownership, market, product service, target market, sales plan, marketing plan. How will you distribute the products or service? Business operation, right? So these are some of the things that, you know, one can include. So as a bank, what you can do is, you know, the support that you can extend to SMEs are provide consultancy in case of preparation of the business plan, or appointing a compliance officer to, you know, liaise with, negotiate with, to help them. Arranging, assisting to get the services from internal auditors for preparation of auditing and evaluating accounts for the businesses. Like if they want the kind of, you know, the support from auditors, some financial service providers, you might be able to, you know, link between these people and get the things done. So giving guidance how to forecast the future business plan and operation. So how to do a financial forecast, right? And how to, you know, prepare, you know, the operational plan, and all those things that, you know, you can provide as a kind of a starter. And so they might, you know, maybe initially they might not be, you know, well versed with the content, may not be, you know, very in a cakewalk, but later with the kind of a discussion. So since that you have done similar projects with other clients, you are, you know, best person to advise him. With the project to project, business to business, credit request to request, the component, the inclusions could be different, right? Not a kind of, you know, the very standard format. Depending on the requirement, depending on the amount, depending on the complexity of the project, the requirements could be different. But there may be a basic details we can expect from the client in his perspective, in his own view, so which could be useful for us. Finally, opportunities and challenges for the banks. So far we have discussed what is SME, why it is important to banks, economy, client, what are their contribution to 3 sectors, what are the component of business activities they are engaged in, why that we need to define the SME and kind of the definitions of SME, and then we move to issues faced by SME, faced by banks, some remedial solutions, and we move to one of the great solution, a tailor-made solution called business plan. And why business plan? What is business plan? Importance of business plan, components of the business plan, why not business plan, the support towards the business plan, we learn. So all in all, generally as a last slides on the SME introduction area, I'm trying to share with that opportunities and challenges for the banks, because when we try to do these activities in today's context, where you have so many opportunities, so many challenges, because we do a very competitive business here, so many banks, so many non-financial organizations, so many like NGOs also who are engaged in financing business, and even telco is also into business too, in different and but smart level, and informal lending also taking place. So many players in the market. Hence, being very formal organizations, institutions, we have some challenges and we have some opportunities. Let's outline a few of them and conclude this session. Opportunities. Changes in regulatory environment. Now, you can see so many regulatory changes relevant to maybe capital provision, capital accommodation like Basel 1, 2, 3, and then a provisioning requirement, central bank provision to impairment. And recently that we have got a kind of a circular saying from next year onwards, we are not following the central bank non-performing classification. Instead, that we try to use the impairment calculation, impairment classification in terms of delinquent non-performing clients, which are new development, right? So one has to be very much thorough, and kind of these changes we need to abide to comply. And on top of that, so many regulations, like, very operational regulations on foreign currency, keeping reserve, pricing, offering moratorium, so many changes in the regulatory environment. So those things could be opportunity to you all to some extent. Not all are challenging, because the central bank wanted to do these things which may be beneficial for banks. Simultaneously, some change of regulatory requirements could be a challenge also in short to medium term, right? So as bankers, it's good that you try to align with changes, because the rest of the players also has to align. Then it's a level playing field. Now you see, now central bank is now planning to come up with the microfinancing act afresh. Earlier we had a microfinancing act, which has been not very much accepted by the microfinancing players in the market, and very few got registered under the microfinancing act, I think 2016 act. Instead, central bank has now revisited, including these non-formal, like lenders also, money lenders, some activities into that. And so now they are planning to come up with a new act. So which is, again, it's good for a formal organizations, right? So because now then they come up with a more formal methodology, like a win-win situation, where you can have more a transparent level playing businesses. Then second one, digital drive of government of Sri Lanka, which I was mentioning, that your bank is a pioneer in many activities, including Lanka Kiwa. Yeah, because now most of the things trying to do in digital form, not only the banking transactions, right? In addition to non-banking, like the legal activities, valuation, tax payments, NIC, right? Everything is trying to, even the more advanced version of the CRIP, right, are supporting towards this credit process, right? Rather than depending on manual docs, now you go to the web and get the data extracted and see the creditworthiness of the particular client. Digital drive. Third one, tap into high margin granular segment, because now it's an opportunity that we can go to the new markets, right? And then there are different segments in a market, like you can see high net worth individuals. You have now a proposition to go and get tapped on those areas. In addition, in a micro section also, there are some clients who can spend, their disposable income is higher compared to sometimes SMEs, because their requirements, financial requirements, consumption requirements are maybe lesser. So then you have more savings benefit, right? With the new technology, with the smart application in the field, so you can tap those things without any problem. Earlier may not be easy to go and tap those markets, because they might scatter around the country. Not easy, they might not be very good at financial discipline. But right now, with the new technologies, so you can easily tap these sections, and you can harness some benefits in terms of CASA, like liquidity requirements. Credit guarantee scheme for small and micro, because central bank has come up with some credit guarantee schemes. Time to time they also coming up, and future also, that's possibility. So that is a advantage for bankers to go and do banking on these small segments. So the risk can be mitigated to some level because there is a guarantee provided the central bank. So those are some opportunities in terms of, this is subject to debate, but in general, we see these are the things that, the banks can explore for the betterment of their business. Then challenges also available. Increasing capital and impairment. I mentioned that the regulatory requirement, there are some positives and negatives also. When you say increasing capital, increasing impairment, new regulatory requirement on export proceeds, forex requirement are some challenges because the bank has to satisfy their stakeholders, shareholders, while making money. They have to abide by, they have to comply the regulatory requirements also. Recruiting and retaining experienced credit staff, that is again a challenge because we see that so many good credit resources are being moved within this banking circle. If they see a good opportunity, they can book a new bank or finance company or even outside banking sector organizations. So retaining them may not be easy because there's a demand for the credit guys, credit people, and it's not easy to retain good people because if you don't have good people, then you might have some issues in giving good credit, good lending, right? So that's all about the SME introduction, about issues faced by SMEs, business plan, and challenges in terms of banks. So what are the kind of a clarification from you? Anything to add from you? Any feedback before we move to the next area? It's up to you. It's over to you. Any questions? What are your target market? If I am just to get an idea, Sumit, basically you do micro, I know for sure. Then you know cooperatives and all that also you are doing funding. SMS sut karnawada Sumit ogollu? Donation? Yes, Sumit, you can speak up.
SME කරනවා අපේ
ඒ කියන්නේ like what's like average ticket size අපි ගත්තොත් 5 million 10 million වගේ level එකට
5 million 10 million වගේ යනවා ඊට වඩා ලොකු amounts වලට දැනට මම කරලා නැහැ.
But you also tried deploying some kind of a process like other banks නේ. මොකක් හරි credit paper එකක් ඒ වගේ analysis එකක් එහෙම කරනවා නේ.
කරනවා සර් දැනට දැන් අලුතෙන් නම් බැංක් එකේ පොඩ්ඩක් ලොකු ටිකට් සයිස් වලට යන්න කරලත් තියෙනවා. මෙහෙම ට්‍රේඩින් එක කරන්නේ ගොඩක් වටිනවා.
That's what I'm telling, because now since that you are in that direction, Sumit, and but the rest of the team try to use as much as possible, right? Then though that we are doing this training and maybe another 3-4 weeks that I might go out and the new person would come, but ehema giya kiyala don't make a kind of the issue where we'll share all my whatever telephone numbers and email and all that to you. So anytime please contact. Eka dan mamme bank e ogole bank e kila ekak nahe. If you come across any issue with the client, maybe structuring for example, අපි හිතමු මෙන්න මෙහෙම client කෙනෙක් එනවා and then he is asking this type of a credit. එතකොට ඒක දැන් ඔයාගේ හිතන විදිහට ඒක හොඳද නරකද කියන ප්‍රශ්නේ ආවහම if you have any question please call us and get an opinion. We might at least sometimes we have better experience than you since that we have been in this business for about last 15 to 20 years. But I think ඒ වෙලාවට ඒක ෂෙයා කරගෙන කතා කරගෙන ගැටලු තිබුණොත් निराකරණය කරගන්න. That's what whole purpose of this. මොකද මේක නැත්තම් IBSL එකෙන් කරනවා අපි එනවා ඕගොල්ලෝ ඉඳ ගන්නවා training එක ඉවර වුණාට පස්සේ we are not going to do we are no more in context කියන එක නෙවෙයි මේ යුත්තේ. Because this is small players, small community. We have to do a kind of a joint job. So එතකොට තමයි අපි මේ win-win ඊළඟ level එකට යන්නේ. So if you do a proper job to your clients, එතකොට a client go to the next level. Maybe that client may be a next feeder point for the bigger bank. No harm. Then මේ අපිත් එක්කම ඉන්න ඕන කියලා කතන්දරයක් නැහැ. But if you do a right thing for a client, he goes to the ladder very quick in no time. It's good for us. Right? So we had the same experience when we were at NDB. So we were very good at in development banking. අතරම අපි project financing ඒවා තමයි දිගට මේ කාලේ කරේ. එතකොට we see that the clients was developing with us after some time, so we might not be able to support him in terms of working capital. මොකද ඒ දවස්වල we didn't have the working capital facilities. So he went to the commercial bank. But still he having a kind of regard to the people, organization. So that's how but we are very happy the way they have move forward. එතකොට අන්න ඒ වගේ අර හරි දේවල් ටිකක් අපි try කරමු මේ මුලදී ඉගෙන ගන්න. එතකොට දැන් අපි when we go forward also these are something that we may not have exactly you can do it following day. මොකද මේ ගොඩක් theory දේවල් මුල හරිය අපේ තියෙන්නේ. Later you try to learn about the credit models, credit evaluation practices and all that, but very good to understand the client. දැන් මේ අද කරපු ටිකේදී ඇත්තටම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට issue එක understand කරගෙන මාරම වටිනවා. ඒතකොට ඒ issue එකට උත්තර high level එකකින් එනකම් ඉන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. I was telling about the business plan. Then මේ business plan එක even at a very low level we can readily implement. එතකොට client එක ඉඳගෙන එයාට එක හදන්න බැරි නම් ඔයා හදාගන්න checklist එක. Under management, what are the things you ask? Under operational, what are the things you want to know? Maybe the turnover, maybe the daily capacity, maybe the labor, maybe the number of machines වල capacity, නැත්නම් market එකට ආවම competitors ලා දවසකට අපි කීයක් විකුණනවද, ඒකේ price එක කොහොමද, මොකක්ද region, and all that you try to get it on a piece of document. ඒතර ඒ document එක තියෙනවා නම් it is very easy for us to do the credit paper. නැත්නම් credit paper එකට අපි ඒක දැම්මහම when you go to the head office they approve it based on the facts. No, then if we are unable to put the facts on the credit paper, then they might not be able to approve it as it is. ඊට පස්සේ එහෙට එනවා මෙහෙට යවනවා කාලයක් යනවා. So අන්න ඒ වගේ දේවල් අපි අයින් කරගන්නවා. So we can improve the turnaround time. How you can do the improving is basically you need to sharpen your knowledge. ඒකෙත් මම කියන්නේ theoretical knowledge මේ ඕන තරක තියෙයි. දැන් issues of SME කියලා Google එකට ගිහිල්ලා ගැහුවාම ඔක්කොම ටික ඔයක දැන් අවුරුදු 10කට ගන්නොත් ඔය ඔච්චරයි. තව අවුරුදු 5ක් ගියාම ඔය ටිකම ඔහොම තියෙයි. But the importance is to how you tackle. Maybe region to region වෙනස්. If you are in Badulla for example, ඇත්තටම collateral is an issue because අපි කියන්නේ ඔක්කොම පාන්සල් වල ඉඳන් ඒව තියෙනවා. එතකොට දැන් අපි එහෙමනම් බදුල්ලේ majority properties owned by the temples has no authority to mortgage කියලා. Are we to there to do no business? No. Then you have to come up with some business opportunities where you can get some advantage in the region. එතකොට ඒ no collateral කියන එක ඒ හැම බැංකුවකටම පොදුයිනේ. එතකොට අනිත් බැංකු business කරලා නැද්ද? නෑ කරලා තියෙනවා. Then we think about different approach. අපිට product මොනවා හරි develop කරන්න පුළුවන්ද? අපිට පුළුවන්ද tripartite like the issue we understand collaterals are not quality or lack of collateral. එහෙමනම් whether we can take some collateral on whatever worth basis. value එකකට නෙවෙයි. Just to make a commitment from the client. අපි right ඔය දෙන්න ඉදම අපි ඒක mortgage කරනවා. whatever worth basis කියලා කියන්නේ. එතකොට ඒකට mortgage bond එකක් value එකක් මොකුත් නැහැ. නමුත් client is now committing. මම ඉදමක් තිබ්බා තියලා මම ණයක් ගත්තා. or maybe simple lodgement. අපිට title එක clear නැතත් මම කියනවා right ඔයා ගේන්න මම title document එක. ඒක මම තියාගන්නවා simple lodgement. Then the kind of a binding. The client know මගේ දැන් ඔප්පු ටික අතන තියලා තියෙන මම මේක default කරන්න බෑ. I have to interact with the bank. මොනවා ප්‍රශ්නයක් ආවොත් I have to go first to my banker and explain my situation. ඒ collateral අපි handle කරනවා. Still we take for the additional comfort. Then we try to develop some products. අපි හිතමු if you take there may be the corporate client කෙනෙක් ඉන්නවා. එයාට feed කරන agricultural customers ලා ටිකක් ඇති. So you are a bank. There may be tripartite, 3 of you. Once you provide the whatever farming merchandise ceremony හරි දුන්නාම ඒකට අපි advance එකක් මෙයාට දෙනවා. After 30 days 60 days the corporate will pay you. එතකොට ඒකට අපිට ලොකු documentation එකක් නැත්නම් collateral එකක් ආවේ නැහැ. So maybe the cross guarantees ගන්න පුළුවන්. Maybe මොකක් කර team එකක් හදාගෙන cooperative shop එකක් හදාගෙන ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ binding එක අරගෙන inter party guarantees ටිකක් ගන්න. That's fair enough. මොකද එහෙ ඊට වඩා business එකක් ඔයාලට කරන්න බෑ. Right then මුකුත් නොකර ඉන්නවට වඩා you develop something. It will work. ඊට පස්සේ bring some technology to that. Some smart phones එතකොට අපිට track කරගන්න පුළුවන් through GPS and all that how they are doing and එතකොට අපි දන්නවා collections එන්නේ කවද්ද කියලා. So you can straight away debit credit කරන්න පුළුවන්. So those are some of the things that you can do a kind of a business, right? Okay. So basically this is what exactly I want to share with on the lesson 1, module 1. Any questions just to move to the next level? Right, since we have done a kind of 2 hour or so we'll take a break about 10-15 minutes and again join maybe 10:45. So we'll back in 11 o'clock. So we'll continue for the next session that is about sources of financing. I have added that as today's lecture materials. So we will move to the sources of financing, which is again is beneficial to the small and medium client. So in the purview of SME, the context of SME, we'll see what are the sources of financing plus the support, the organizational and institutional support to SME growth. So let's meet in 15 minutes. So 11 o'clock, we'll continue the part 2 of the module 1. We try to now move to the another area under sources of financing and supporting policies, which is again SME importance and SME support context. So here we try to understand what are the the available funding sources, SME and at large, maybe the micro, small, medium enterprises, that's one, and entrepreneurs also. Then also we have to see what are the supporting policies by the government, banks. So in a macro perspective, what are the available supporting policies, instruments? Because now this is again maybe for us is more academic exercise, because those things are not for kind of day-to-day banking, but good to know as bankers what are the in a big picture, what are the available sources and the institutional support. That's basically kind of objective, right? So the learning. The number 2 is when you know some of these sources of funding, so time to time when you interact with SME client, you can update them. So instead that you go to money lenders, so you can have these options, right? So then they can also explore those opportunities. Maybe coming to bank, going to share market, going to a investor, right? So there may be so many other things that you can aware them, so that it's a win-win solution for both entrepreneur and the bank. So those having said and having kept those in your mind, so we will undergo this section. As I just mentioned, it's more academic, but try to make as much as practical in terms of application in day-to-day perspective. Generally internal and external. Then we specifically try to see what are the development financing sources, and then what are the other sources, and then supporting policies and institutions. Generally, we can have 3 main sources like venture capital firms, business angels, business growth. First, we see a business growth in terms of external and internal. Right. in a business, we see an internal generation of funds. If you remember correct, we mentioned some time back in today's presentation, SMEs are unable to generate adequate capital within the business to great extent because of the cost of credit and other commitments. However, if they can, generate funds, deploying different best practices, then that's one of the best methods that they can source funding internally, then go to the outside. What are those examples? Organic growth. That's what we just mentioned. Growth generated through the development and expansion of the business itself. Right? So can be achieved through some of these where you are not going to depend on external sources or external investors. It could be not an acquisition, not a merger, not a third-party investor. So you focus internally. You try to grow it organically. Business itself. Again, business එක ඇතුළෙන්ම මම සල්ලි ජෙනරේට් කරලා ඒක රීඉන්වෙස්ට් කරලා ආයි මම next level එකට ඔහොම උඩට යන එක තමයි අපි මේ business එක ඇතුළෙන්ම එන growth එක කියලා කියන්නේ. ඒකේ මේන්ම component එක තමයි increasing sales. You generate increasing sales. So increasing revenue to impact on overall profile levels, overall profits level. You can then through additional enhance, increase operations, we generate turnover. We grow the top line. So it will impact on your profits levels. So more and more profits generate in the bottom. More and more profit generate right? A katuling apita puluang cash flow වැඩි කරගෙන, sales වැඩි කරගෙන, right? So go to the next level. Number 2, use of retained profits. So there are some reserves, different reserves, retained profits that also you can use for business reinvestment. Third one, depending on the operations, depending on the requirement, you can sell some of the assets which we feel underutilized, unearning. Then අපි firm එකක් ගත්තොත් සමහර වෙලාවට additional vehicles වෙන්න පුළුවන්, additional machinery තියෙන්න පුළුවන්. ඒතකොට ඒවා use වෙන්නේ නැති වෙනකොට rather than maintaining them at your premises, you can sell it, get some money, invest in working capital, do the business. එතකොට if you want to grow it again, you can go to the markets and purchase the machinery. So generally the understanding is that. And the risk is like, then අපි ඒක කරන්න හොඳ නැහැ. Capacity reduce වෙනවා නම් we should not go for that option. Like, you understand my point, right? So that's good to do if you are planning to scale down your business due to various reasons. Market issues, competition issues, like COVID kind of issues. So actually these days is better you focus on core operations. Ancillary වලට ඒවා නොයා හිටියට කමක් නැහැ. Even the core operations, අපි should not go to very expansionary. මොකද ඒවා හදලා විකුණ ගන්න අපිට බෑ. Market is not such that supporting. එතකොට what we have to do is idly we can sell it off, get the money, reinvest in the business. So why these things are important for us is when you have a chat with the client, so he might come up with, no, I want money to expand him. I know. So he might have only option as a loan. So you keep on inquiring how he's doing, how his business, idling assets in other. You can suggest them. So then why not you sell it one of the properties and get the money to grow the business. Take option. Idling machines you can sell it and you can bring a kind of back to the operations. ඒ වගේ දේවල් අපිට useful when we are dealing with the client, right? Not only the solution is giving loans. There are some other ample means to provide financing. Okay. Then external sources. Internal, external sources also, couple of methods. That is a long term, short term, right? Maybe then they come to a bank and say, I want some support for working capital. Short term lending, short term loans, kind of. Or maybe long term, medium term, bridging, different times loans, leasing hire purchases, right? So those are, you go to external and get the funds to grow your business. ඔය දෙකම කරාට අපි ලොකු හානියක් දකින්නේ නැහැ. මොකද because it is under the purview of the borrower. එයාගේ control එකේ තමයි මේ හැමදේම කරන්නේ. But when you go to the inorganic growth like acquisition, mergers, එතකොට it's a hostile type of thing. Then if you want to grow like what Alice group of companies, if you see what Mr. Dhammika Pera was doing this recent past was basically he acquire whatever very strategic companies under his belt. And Alice group, Singika Kata. So like that, he has a number of entities acquired through acquisition. That's another way of growing. Then අපිට ඕනනම් එයාට එකම කම්පැනියක් කරා grow වෙලා ඉන්නේ නැතුව he now has ample businesses. Tile, hotel, manufacturing, financial services, right? And domestic, right? Retailing, singer, right? Now he is into the academic education side also. So he tried to acquire some performing businesses through share market, acquiring those through buying shares, controlling interest rate. Inorganically. Inorganically, you can grow in a quick time. Organically growing, you need a longer time. But inorganically, you can grow. And then you see some mergers. And banks, yes, they merge, right? Like you take NDB, DFCC. So earlier they were development banks. Now they fully fledged retail banking. How come? So they merge with another commercial bank. NDB, ANZ Greenless bank join. Then they become a NDB bank. DFCC, Vardhana joins and DFCC bank. So now under the retailing also, they merge now. The bigger, smaller, they go together, merge, new entity. So that's how they go to next level. Right? So mergers, acquisition are some kind of inorganic growth that we are speaking of. Long term, we talk about long term funding. That always you can go to share market. You can issue ordinary shares. You can issue preference shares. You can issue new shares, rights shares, bonus, different instruments, depending on your capacity. Then small, medium, retail, microfinancing may not go to this level, but high level of SME, because SME board then the stock market, corporate client, rather than coming to a bank, they can go to the stock market and issue their own shares to the clients, people. Now they become shareholders. They infuse share capital. So that can be used to support your growth. CapEx, working capital, all those requirements, financing requirement meet karagana apdi long term yanna puluwan share market. That's what it says. And then another instruments like debentures, right? ගොඩාක් දේවල් තියෙනවා. මම මෙතන කීපයක් පෙන්නනවා. debentures තියෙනවා, bank loans තියෙනවා, investment banks වලට යන්න පුළුවන්. Government grants වලට යන්න පුළුවන්. Right? So many things that you can get it from different sources. Now what we are trying to understand here is internally, externally there are sources. Internally මොනවද කියන එක අපි කතා කරා. Externally තමයි අපි මේ කතා කරන්න යන්නේ. Externally also there are so many sources, but you need to make sure where to go, right? Because now recently US AID 8, they are giving some credits to selected segments like tourism, women entrepreneur support, coupled with link with banks, and they provide US AID, right? So that's a kind of a grant, and that's external support. If you want to get some money to grow, yes, you can get it sources like that, or you can go to bank and finance company and get lease, hire purchase, long-term loan, mortgage loan, we name it. But that's another method of outside borrowing, external financing. Debentures, share issues, another form of external source of financing. So here basically we try to understand what are the sources, internal, external, for a client to tackle with. Because I have given 2 tunes. Reading, one is access to finance, the other was is sources to finance. So both you can read through at your leisure, which gives a very detailed description on instruments, issues faced by the SME, remedial actions, right? All those things are there just for your understanding, to enhance your knowledge. You can read those materials as well. Here basically I am taking some very high level information just to brief you in a more macro perspective. In the meantime, if you do have any questions, please raise. I know these are not very much practical in your day-to-day life, day-to-day banking, but these things are necessary in case, especially you are dealing with clients, when you are directing them to different funding. This is important. Short term, that is again, we as bank, we provide these facilities. Short-term loans, import loans, working credit loans, overdraft, trade credit, factoring, hire purchase leasing, right? There are so many instruments in a banking book. එතකොට අපිට client කෙනෙක් වැදගත් වෙන්නේ මේ කියපු දේවල් වලින් විශේෂයෙන් term loan and short term loan කියන කොටස් දෙකේදී තමයි අපිට මේ ගොඩක් වැදගත් වෙන්නේ. එතකොට when customer comes to us, we need to understand his financing requirement. It could be capex, capital financing requirement එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. It could be short term working capital එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. It could be financial advisory එකක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. For all those 3, we should be able to support him, understand the situation, and whether, depending on the requirement, we should be able to advise and finance him. In that discussion, sometimes we might need something we learned just before about some instruments, right? Organically grow, inorganically grow, right? Depending on the client profile, so you are in a position to advise, why not you try out this as well? Good that we will provide some STL facility, but still there are some stocks which are obsolete. So you need to sell it at even a discount, which provides some infuse to your working capital. So like that. So you need to, provide kind of some solution, consultation to the clients based on the day-to-day requirement. Then inorganic growth as an outside financing mechanism, we talk about acquisition, necessity of financing external inorganic growth. It could be merger, it could be takeover. So acquisition through mergers and takeovers. Mergers, it's like kind of level playing. You do discuss with another like-minded organization based on the synergies. So you merge two entities. Obviously, there may be a major, a minor, but there may be discussions to different levels, and then you get together to make a bigger entity. Like two banks can get together and make a bigger bank in that way. Takeover. So that is one firm takes the control of the other. The bigger company is taking over a smaller company and sometimes it loses the identity by doing so. When you are trying to take it over, sometimes I keep a brand name and a bigger company. So that's a takeover. So this also could happen at higher level of companies, not SMEs, but when you go up in the ladder, when you are listed in the stock market, there is a chance of being taken over by another company. So that's how inorganically growth can be achieved. So we have learned what are the organically growth, what are the inorganically growth. So this is basically one of the financing option sources that we are going to learn. Any questions before we move to the next one?
ඒක පොඩ්ඩක් ආපහු පැහැදිලි කරන්න පුළුවන්ද ඉන්ऑर्गेनिक ඕගනික් දෙකේ පොඩ්ඩක් ආපහු පොඩි බ්‍රීෆ් එකක් දෙන්න.
හරි. Right. අපි ගත්තොත් generally SME එහෙම නැත්නම් corporate or maybe the borrowers, they want sources of funding in order to grow. There are so many sources that we can discuss. Here I have taken 3 sources, that is business growth, venture capital and business angels. Basically, there are so many other sources like maybe personal loan, the personal savings, borrowings from friends and relatives, borrowings from money lenders. Right? Sources thamai SME client kedekota. But here I haven't taken all those things. I have taken only 3: business growth, venture capital, business angels, because they are a bit of need to learn. We know then what when you are trying to do a business, you start the business. එහෙම නැත්නම් ඔයාගේ නෑදෑය හිත මිත්‍රයෝ ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ සල්ලි ටිකක් ගන්න පුළුවන් යාළුවන්ගෙන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් මනි ලෙන්ඩර්ස්ලා ඒත් ඔයාට ගන්න පුළුවන්. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි හිතමු ඔය බැංකුවකින් දෙන ලෝන් එකක්, කෙටි කාලින දීර්ඝ කාලින ණයක්. So those are some of the known sources of funding. And මෙතනදී මම කියන්න යන්නේ ඊට අමතරව we try to see more formalized bit of methods of financing. When come to the business growth can happen in 2 ways. එකක් තමයි organically, inorganically. Organically is basically you try to grow your business within. Sales වැඩි කරලා හරි, එහෙම නැත්නම් return earnings වලින් හරි, එහෙම නැත්නම් unutilized assets විකුණලා හරි, you try to generate within the business and reinvest into different requirements, and you grow it slowly, steadily. We call organically. The other side is inorganic. Ekedi you see outside support. Mata organic growth ekata amatarawa whether I can get the outside support to grow this to next level. ඉක්මනට grow කරන්න try කරන එක තමයි අපි මේ උත්සාහ කරන්නේ. එතකොට AQA, you can go to the banks, you can go to the finance companies, you can go to the stock market, you can go to the investment bank, okay, and then you try to get their support. If you go to the bank, long-term, short-term financing instruments there. You can get the loans to support your permanent capital, working capital, and financing requirements, so you can get that support. Go to the share market, you can invest, like you can issue new share, preference share, ordinary share, rights issues, bonus shares, script, so many instruments. You can source the money. And then debentures, it's another form of debt instrument. You can sell it in the stock market, secondary market, then again source money. You can do inorganic growth also under this, that is acquisition, another form of inorganic growth outside method of funding. Acquisitions can be mergers and the takeovers. Mergers is like you are a company and you like-minded company, you start negotiation and you get together and make a bigger entity, like two banks and make a bigger bank. And then acquisition through a takeover means you are trying to acquire another company. Ownership coming under you. Control is with you. Everything is being changed to a bigger company's requirement. Then again, you can go to the next level. So those are basically a business growth that we can experience, that we can see. How this is important for us is when customer comes to us for a discussion. So sometimes you might have to let him know only a debt obtained in a loan is not the solution. There are other means of financing. Asset disposal, working capital disposal, okay, or maybe getting some trade support like debtor support, extension of creditor payments. Bank working within the business also we can advise him, because for the depending on the time that might be lesser cost than go over the outside borrowings. Right? You getting my point? Like let's say debtors and debtor portfolio. Then samahara velawata debtor collection credit control function එක හරියට කරොත් instead of waiting 30 40 60 හැමෝටම there may be good guys is going to pay in 15 days, another 30 45 60 එතකොට බැලුවම 60 days වලින් pay කරන්නේ maybe 10% වෙන්න පුළුවන් වාගේ debtor portfolio. So if you have taken effort out of that, probably you get the early cash flows. එතකොට ආයෙ වාට එළියෙන් working capital line එකක් ගන්න ඕන, you can invest that into your working capital. Similarly, stocks are there, maybe something idling. Next time you might not purchase those stocks. Then stock holding cost is that itself saves some money. Then creditor payments, depending on the relationship, some can you to maybe extend some of the creditor payments. So within the working capital itself, you can increase the operational cash flows. One. Number two, reduction of cost. Cost cutting. Cost cutting may try through ICT or some other means, operationalization. So you can do so many things. So you can minimize expenses within the organization. That itself saves some money. That organically increase the profits. Those are the advices you can, tell the client. That itself sources. And blame outside. So you can organically do some innovative activities. Where you get the money saved, you can reinvest and you can grow the business. Yes, as plan B, go to bank and ask for long-term, medium-term, short-term funding. Failing which you can go to the finance company, which is a bit expensive. That's another option. We are not advising client to go to the informal lenders, but generally those are eligible sources of financing. Is it okay, Tarindu?
Okay, sir.
Right.
පැහැදිලි.
Right. We go to the next one. That is a business angels, which is very which is not very much familiar in Sri Lanka, but I just wanted to share with the UK example, both business, venture capital and business angels, because These are the concepts that we also need to look into, because many SMEs, many microfinancing clients and enterprises are needing this type of financing, because maybe you proactively go and do these type of financing, but many organizations are not doing this, because these smaller players requiring funds, right? Because they don't know how to do businesses, like high-end SMEs. They don't know how to do financials, and they don't know how to acquire business skills, because they are startup businesses. They want some support. So in order to do that, banks may be unable to do it, but venture capital, these business angels are ready to do that, because they are very much comfortable in those financing. These are a kind of features which we don't find in Sri Lanka, where individuals looking for investment, because there are individual investors. They want to invest. So in UK context, up to 100,000. That's what they expect. Could be individual or smaller group. Maybe a couple of people can get together. They can form organization, and then they can find a lucrative business opportunity, then they can invest. But they have also control. Then මේ මසල් ටිකක් දුන්නාම ඒගොල්ලෝ එක්ක ඩිරෙක්ටර් බෝඩ් එකට හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් day to day decision making වලට ඒගොල්ලෝ එනවා. ඒ ඇවිල්ලා තමයි ඒගොල්ලෝ ඒ ප්‍රශ්න එහෙම නැත්නම් ඒ සපෝට් එක දෙන්නේ. We call them business angels. Then venture capital. It is what I උඩ අය. Right? They are taking a higher risk. They introduce a higher equity capital. They take control over the business. They run it on behalf of the client. Now after 2, 3, 4 years, they sell back the business to the client, then they exit. So ඒගොල්ලෝ අර risk එක වැඩිපුර ගන්නවා. Capital එක වැඩිපුර දානවා. Right? Not like banks. Banks are unable to fund those levels. Bank ටිකක් එච්චර risk ගන්න බයයි. But venture capital, they try to do it because they prefer to take higher risk. Pooling out capital in the form of limited companies, venture capital companies, right? Maybe a couple of individuals or a couple of investors or maybe a couple of companies, they got together and have a pool of cash in order to invest a smaller companies. Looking for investment opportunities, fast growing businesses or businesses with highly rated. අපි ගත්තොත් ඒගොල්ලෝ fast growing නම් high risk නම් highly growth potential එකක් තියෙන ඒවට තමයි අපි මේ invest කරන්නේ. They may also buy out firms in admin who have going concerns. So administration එක අරගෙන ඒගොල්ලෝ කරනවා සමහර businesses. They are not startups, but they are running going concern, and they might end up with the agreement to undertake the administration function and run it on behalf of the client. In addition, they provide advice, they provide consultancy, they share their experience, and they provide the the networking contacts. Those things also they provide with the fee, for a fee basically. නිකන් නෙවෙයි ඒ විදිහට ඒගොල්ලෝ කරනවා. Right. එතෙන්ට එනකම් මොනවා හරි තියෙනවද බලන්න ප්‍රශ්න? Because this is again, as I say, academic, but need to know that the clients can tap so many sources, even including SMEs, micro. They can go to different players and get the money. And the next level එකට අපි යනකොට ඔයගොල්ලන්ට තේරෙයි ඊට වඩා economy එකක්, country එකක්, organization හැටියට අපිට හම්බෙන්න තියෙන්නේ මොනවද කියන එක තමයි අපි ඊළඟට අපි කතා කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ. Any questions? One, Kirini? luxury. Anything to add? Any clarification? Has anybody undertaken any credit courses with IBSL previously? Credit management, diploma in credit, high advanced diploma in credit. Anybody here? No? Okay. Hope you don't have much concerns here, but I know not difficult, but just let me know if anything that you want to get more information. Please let me know, so we'll discuss. And as I mentioned, I have included all those things in very detailed form in the document I shared, so you can go through that and get a more idea as well. Then we try to understand what development financing, right? So like maybe that's relevant to your organization and organizational level, right? So if the country, if the the organizations are more development oriented lending, then there are in a countrywide, in economic wise, so we can have some sources from country to country in order to support that development activities. There are international institutions also, international institutions, SDRs, international finance, IFF, tax measures. There are so many things. So we'll AID, so we will discuss those things, right? International institutions are very important in any context. You know why? Not only for development lending, not only for development support financing, but other than that, if the country is facing any financial difficulties, then some world organizations are coming to help them out. Like these days, many Sri Lankans are talking about IMF support to the foreign exchange issues we are facing now. Balance of payment issues for that. IMF because generally they support us, right? International institutions World Bank, Agency of UN, organizations but their main aim is to alleviate in poverty, inequality and promoting development. Organization එක 184ක් රටවල් එකතු වෙලා ඉන්නවා. එතකොට these are the institutions. දැන් මේවා ලොකුවට වැදගත් වෙන්නේ නැහැ, because I just want to share is දැන් සමහර වෙලාවට අපිට organization to organization, maybe STB for example, you might get a credit line from IFC, right? IFC එකක එකතු වෙලා ඔයගොල්ලෝ tie up එකට ගිහිල්ලා to get some funding to support to online entrepreneurs, SME and micro sector. එතකොට you have to know that what is IFC, part of the World Bank, what their agenda in the sense what their objective. So IFC is to providing finance to the private sector for development, right? Because they are to support for the country's economic development financing projects or development company. They're not direct lending. They tie up with a company, tie up with organizations. So recently, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, IFC, STB, it was a joint venture. I'm not exactly sure it's IFC or USAID, but so kind of the support internationally by these organizations. So that basically, it's a macro level where we want money to online entrepreneurs, micro entrepreneurs. So how we are getting that? That we are getting from these multinational or international banks and the financial organization. So at a lower cost with different concessions, we getting that. So we then lend to support the entrepreneur and their activities. So the World Bank represented by these five, and then they have different mission and their objectives. So a couple of organizations are directly support the lending or the development activities. But one exception is IMF is not the organization to support the development activities in a country. They support to countries to establish, or they to establish the financial system, monetary system. Right? So that's what we need to know. IMF is not to give money for development, lending, promote development. They give money to support the financial system stability. Then we got IFC and IMF. IFC, yes, they come and they help to development financing those. IMF is already rataka ආර්ථිකයේ නැත්නම් මුදල් ශාස්ත්‍රයේ නැත්නම් මුදල් පද්ධතියේ තුලිතභාවය නැත්නම් ඒක ආරක්ෂා කරගන්න. දැන් ලංකාවට ඇත්තට මේ වෙලාවේ IMF එකේ එක අපි ගන්න කියන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ සල්ලි අරගෙන අපි දැන් අර අපේ රිසර්ව් ටික උඩට දාගන්න තමයි අපි මේ try කරන්නේ. රිසර්ව්ස් උඩට දාගත්තාම අපිට පුළුවන් අනිත් රටවල් එක්ක negotiate කරන්න. අපේ rating එක උඩට යනවා. නැත්නම් reserves 1 billion වලට බහපු ගමන් අරගොල්ලෝ කියනවා it's a country where no reserves. දැන් අපි client කෙනෙක් දිහා බලලා network එක නැහැ කියනවා වගේ තමයි රටක reserves ටික නැහැ කිව්වන් පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ අපි දිහා බලන්නේ වැරදි කෝණේ. කියන්නේ debt එකක් ගෙවා ගන්න බෑ, credit worthiness නැහැ, ඒ මානසිකත්වය. So we need to build the reserve through these funds. Okay? Then there are some other the conditions that we need to comply. But generally IMF එකකින් කරන්නේ reserves වලට එහෙම නැත්නම් balance of payment වලට එන foreign exchange crisis වලට support කරන එක පමණයි. Not for money for on lending on development activities. This is IMF. Then main organizations gatthoth, these are basically, you have heard some of the names. They are provide money to support SMEs. And api SME කෙනෙකුට ණයක් දෙනකොට, microfinancing කෙනෙකුට ණයක් දෙනකොට, we sometimes we see there are some credit lines, refinancing lines. Who has granted those? Many of these banks might have granted through central bank those credit lines. ADB, Japanese Bank, Japan International, German Bank, IFC, Agricultural Development. So they have different purposes, different missions. So they provide funds to on lending, to do on lending on the selected segments of this economy. USAID recently, as I was mentioned, granted money to top women entrepreneurs for their ventures, to promote, uplift, to grow their ventures. So why? Because they try to promote women entrepreneurships. Also, they provide export-oriented organizational support also, because they want to promote the exporters to next level. So, select fund. For us, it's important being bankers to know what are those credit lines, what are the concessions, what are the most eligible credit criteria to support these clients. As bankers, as credit officers, we are lazy to select the customer segments. Credit lines benefit credit line customers. It's a win-win. We are maintaining very good margin. සමහරට අපිට මේව හම්බෙන්නේ 2 3 4% වලට. අපි 10%කට විතර දෙනවා. 6%ක් විතර අපිට මාජින් එකක් තියෙනවා. තව ඇඩ්මිනිස්ට්‍රේටිව් ෆී එකක් අපිට එනවා. So many benefits. දැන් මේ credit lines වලින් fund කරනකොට තියෙන benefit එක, so the clients can acquire very easily. නේ 5%කට 6%කට මේ loan එකක් දෙනවා කියවම කවුද දෙන්නේ නැත්තේ? And then you can tie them up through this line and then you can grow with the client. තව facilities ඔයගොල්ලන්ට දෙන්න පුළුවන්. Credit card to personal loan to and all that also you can grant. Next chapter ඉගෙන ගන්නවා universal banking. අර ඉස්සර development banks කරේ 1-to-1 term loan එකක් වුණා දුන්නා අපි පැත්තකට දුන්නා monthly repayment එක බලාගෙන අපි හිටියා. දැන් එහෙම නෙවෙයි. We try to do term loan, hire purchase, insurance, savings, current account, personal loans and trade loans and financial services. එකම තැනින් අපි ඔක්කොම දෙනවා ඒ client and the family and the whatever එයාගේ network එකට. Then we are benefiting. එයා working capital එක අඩු වෙනකොට අර පැත්තෙන් සල්ලි ටිකක් හම්බෙනවා. ඒක personal පැත්ත හොඳ වෙනකොට trade පැත්ත අඩු වෙනවා. So trade හොඳ වෙනකොට ඒ වගේ අපිට කොහෙන් අඩු වුණත් as a overall proposition we are in a better winning position. So ඒ වගේ universal banking එකට අපි try out කරනවා. For that it's a good entry point. If you have a refinancing credit line through one of these organizations, obtain, which is much beneficial for you to acquire and then grow on the platform. Then another source is the FDIs, foreign direct investments. Make a maybe රටකින් රටකට organization කීපයක් එකතු වෙලා හරි එහෙම නැත්නම් රජයකට හම්බෙන ඒවා තමයි FDIs කියලා කියන්නේ. හැබැයි මෙන්න මේ වගේ ගත්තහම දැන් අපි තුන් Japanese company එකක් Chinese company එකක්, so they come and do the investment, but we need to ensure these things are in place at right quantity and right proportion. Infrastructure, security, peace, local laws, government corruption, freedom of the market, tax regime. So these are the things that investors will look into. We need to see a win-win proposition. Then අපි multinational එකක් වෙනවා කියලා සියලුම දේවල් අපි open up කරලා අපේ sovereignty එක අපේ rules bend කරලා අපි ඔක්කොම නිකන් අර දැන් කියන්නේ මේ සියලුම දේවල් අපි පිටරට දෙන දෙක කරද්දී it's not a win-win. We try to ensure that's a fair share for both. ලංකාවට ඒගොල්ලෝ එනවා නම් at least maybe 10-year tax holiday, but thereafter they have to pay. What's operating style? Build, maintain, operate, build, like BOT, operate, transfer, right? Build, operate, own. ඒ වගේ එක එක BOO කියලා තියෙනවා, BOT කියලා තියෙනවා, right? එතකොට අපි බලන මොන ප්‍රොපොසිෂන් එකද ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉන්නේ. අවුරුදු 20ක් 30ක් 35කට පස්සේ අපිට ඒක හම්බෙනවා. What are the investment that they are brought in? What are the skill levels that they are going to impart to our local workforce? Right? So මේක අර දැලිපියෙන් කිරි කනවා වගේ තමයි. නැත්තම් foreign direct investments ඕනේ කියලා ඔක්කොම ගෙනත් දාගත්තට පස්සේ ඒගොල්ලෝ ඔක්කොම මෙහි තියෙන ටික මේවා කරගෙන එළියට යනවා නම් that is not a proposition that we should encourage. ඒක බැලිය යුතු නැත්තම් කරිය යුතු දෙයක් නෙවෙයි. But you need to make a balance. Like එහෙම කියලා ඉවරලා කොහොම නීති තද කරොත් they may not be coming. So that's about, again, a macro level, but we need to know these things. As banks, we have to see what's happening in the general environment. So because those are kind of some inputs for our day-to-day lending, day-to-day banking. AID, that's another method of sources, because there are so many non-government organizations, NGOs, foreign NGOs. They, or maybe the government to government, different levels, they provide aid to a country, selected organizations. Right? That's good, but you understand what are the underlying strings of this AID, right? When Arabian bilateral venable, multilateral venable, like maybe the BMI sit for about classic example. And maybe then recently constructed Jaffna library, right? Maybe some talks about conference halls donated by some countries. Then eka kinekama right? Basically, when you undertake a aid, you have some benefits, you have some cost also. Right? Kickstart economic development. So it could useful to promote, encourage other investments. Even benefits. Right? Cost to zero. Not always for appropriate purpose. Right? Again, then this is the intended purpose. So it can link with various strings that may not be in the recipient's country's interest. Make conditions. human rights it's like if you take GSP plus we need to comply. So they probably our sovereignty will be impacted. So there are some pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages, benefits and cost in AID. So you need to make sure those things also while obtaining this financing. So what we have been trying to understand here is initially organic, inorganic, that's about business growth, and then we talk about venture capital and business angels, kind of a method of sources. Then we try to understand some international organizations and international mechanisms to provide sources for development lending in a country. In that context, banks like you are directly involved in some of those organizations to get the funds for own lending activities. I think most are academic, may not exactly useful for day-to-day banking, but still relevant because we need to understand when you are try to learn a course like SME business, sources of financing. So we need to know those things as well. But it's good that if you try to keep these some of the slides in your mind, where in case a possible examination, so we might have to take some questions, and then I'm not going to do the questions outside what we the presentation. So I'll make sure that every questions to be within the slides that we discussed. But the additional readings, yes, obviously it's for your knowledge gathering, not for any examination related, but these things might be useful for examination purposes, but not exactly the day-to-day sort of applications, right? So before moving to the other supports, which are much relevant to our day-to-day perspective, any questions up to now? මොකුත් ප්‍රශ්න තියෙනවද? තේරෙන්නේ නැති නැත්නම් තවත් පැහැදිලි කරන්න ඕන. එහෙනම් දැනට ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්න මොනවා හරි ambiguity එකක් තියෙන. ඔයගොල්ලෝ IFC එකත් එක්කද link එකක් හැදුනේ? මට හරියටම ෂුවර් නෑ.
Yes, sir.
IFC එකත් එක්ක නේ කාංචනා?
Yes, sir. IFC එකත් එක්ක තියෙනවා.
මට මතකයි you have got a kind of a credit line with IFC, and then you are giving that loans to micro and SME දෙකටම ඒක use කරනවා නේ?
Yes.
Very good. So that's the the context, that when you know that what is IFC and what their role, what their objectives, so basically, so that's how your bank has tied up with IFC. So rather than going to the local market and you can easily find the funds through debentures and all that, I think that's also the option that you are looking into. But again, when you go to the IFC like organizations, what happens is you get the funds at a lower cost, right, and the longer repayment also. Then you can make a money here maybe twice or thrice cycles, right? එහෙම තමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් අපිට ඔය advantages වෙන්නේ go to the international lending organization. So that's how the practical example that I want to get further clarified. අපි දැන් යමු මේ credit guarantees කියනවා. So these are very much relevant to us. Then let's say if you want to give loans to the clients, if somebody come and tell you, so we will provide a credit guarantee on some of your lending portfolios. Example අපි ගමු එක කාලයක් තිබුණා pawning businesses ගොඩාක් වැටෙනකොට the government gave a guarantee, say if you go beyond 65% of discount rate and then up to 70-75, the additional quantum of financing will be guaranteed by a credit guarantee provided by the treasury. As a bankers, then you don't see a risk going beyond 65% or more. They might come and tell you go to these sectors, we provide a credit guarantee, in case of the possible NPLs. So that is a kind of a boost for you to go to take additional risk, go to additional sectors, vulnerable clientele. But again, it's a win-win. We try effort, we put up our effort. And by failing which, you know for sure, there's a chance of reimbursement from the government treasury. So, that's my credit guarantees. Practically, you know that when you're doing export businesses, SLASIC guarantees. Because exporters, so the SLASIC will give pre-shipment and post-shipment guarantees. Where in case if you are not doing the shipment timely or some issue, in case that if you are unable to collect it from the exporter, so you can go to the SLASIC can get that covered or that claimed. In the post-shipment, buyer payment, that again, we can challenge the buyer and all that. If everything is failed, then there is insurance that you can claim. So a different type of guarantees. We call credit guarantees. Very important. Supporting tool. Right? So businesses grow කරන්න. Promote කරන්න. Right then, සමහරලාට clients at අපෙන් අහන සමහර දේවල් වලදී, if you know these things, it could be useful to direct them go to these places, SME centers, so that helps them to get more and more insight to their business activities. Right? අපි කිව්වේ දැන් non-financial පැත්ත අපිට දෙන support එකක් දෙනකොට එතකොට clients ලා grow වෙනවා. දැන් business plan එක මොකක්ද කියලා දන්නේ නැහැ, but you try to learn them maybe step by step. දෙවෙනි තුන්වෙනි අවස්ථාව වෙනකොට you come up with the business plan. Now it's a win-win for you and the client also. අන්න ඒ වගේ දේවල් වලට තමයි අපි මේ support කියලා කතා කරන්නේ. සමහරව financial support තියෙනවා, සමහරව non-financial support තියෙනවා. This credit guarantee is a non-financial support extended by organization, maybe central bank also, for us to take more risk, more risky lending. Interest subsidy. මේකත් ගොඩක් වෙලාවට now example එකක් ගත්තොත් say personal capacity අපි housing loan එකකට ගත්තොත් ඒ housing loan වල pay කරන tax කොටස pay කරන interest එක tax deductible. It's a kind of a benefit for me. Even at time, sometimes if you pay interest component like some organizations on a housing loan also, that being reimbursed by the organization itself. So that's the interest subsidy. That is again a support that we can give to entrepreneurs, depending on, right? Maybe sometimes you give a grant kind of thing. That's where you are asking nothing. That's also another a kind of a benefit. So interest subsidy is where in some cases you try to reimburse the interest cost that you forgo. That's a benefit to an employer in a kind of organization. That's another concession. Refinance. I think this is very common to everybody. Probably you might be knowing better than me, where we try to offer a credit line, credit facility at a concessional rate than the prevailing rate. Right? So this could be an opportunity to lure a client to your bank and then grow around him to the next level. There are so many credit lines, refinancing credit lines available in the market, specific for the microfinancing sector. We had some credit lines and specific for SME sector where you provide a concessionary funding and the client is benefited because he's getting the money at a lower cost. But you also benefited because you can give those funds at the concession rate because you are being charged also a lower cost. Both are win-win situation. How this works? Let's say World Bank, ADB, Japanese bank. So they provide money to the central bank, focusing maybe women, maybe outside Western province projects, maybe manufacturing projects. So they say, give loans to these sectors. There may be different definitions how you are going to target the particular market. Then the central bank provide that money to local banks and instruct accordingly to lend these people. Then let's say STB, then STB getting that money and you do lending to your clients. Initially maybe the market rate, and once approved refinance, you submit that to the central bank, then the central bank send the money to your bank. Then you say instead of a 10%, the pricing could be a 7% also. So what it means is you can offer lower rate to the client because you get that money from central bank, where ADB has the initial provider for a period, maybe 7 years. So whatever, at a lower cost. Maybe you get 2% or 3%, you give 7%, you have a still 4% margin. But you need not to go to the market and source the money. If not that you have to go to market and through savings or the term deposit, you have to source the money. No, here source is coming from the central bank at a cost of 2% or 3%. So we only to the clients. So we call the refinancing credit lines. Very good proposition and as a support towards these SME and the needy sectors. Then in addition to this, credit guarantees, interest subsidies, local interest rebate, or refinancing, there are some more supporting policy services by the government related organizations. That also we need to understand. What are those? In general, in budget speech, we can see different concessions offered to SMEs, right? Maybe tax concessions, maybe grants, right? Or maybe some rebates, tax holidays. I mean, because the government is supporting by way of regulatory concessions or support. That's very important. Another one is central bank and the other banks has offered or created some rural or what do you call outstation offices, SME centers or central bank provincial offices. That is important because if the client wanted to get an idea from a central bank, rather than coming to the head office, they can take it from Goal, they can take it from Matale, Kandy, Jaffna, where some central bank provincial offices have been started. So very important. That's a support where the SMEs can get those information. Other initiatives like there are a couple of I have given NDB, Bank of Ceylon, IFC, Sme Toolkit. I will show you that. Union Bank. Basically, these are some of the things that these organizations has gone beyond their mandate to support the SMEs. Maybe as the guidance as the direction by the central bank. So this is what exactly banks has done it. Sometimes, central banks directed banks to go outstation. It's outstation branches in Gudakti. It's not relevant to you because you have almost all like outstation branches. But some banks, even they have gone to the outstation. Because generally central bank feels that if you are in Sri Lanka and doing banking, so you need to go to the markets where reach customers where unbankable. Ekulanta then loan එකක් ගන්න මොන්රාගල ඉඳලා තව කොහෙට ටවුන් එකට යන්න හරියන්නේ නැහැ. මොඩරාගට අපි යන්න ඕනේ. That is the concept. That financial inclusion කියලා කියන concept එකේ තියෙන්නේ අපි පුළුවන් තරම් හරි විදිහට transparent විදිහට affordable විදිහට clients and business requirements වලට අපි meet කරන්න ඕනේ. For that we need to give some support. ඒක තමයි central bank provincial office. නැත්නම් SME centers අපි දාන්න කියන්නේ. Budgetary concessions අපි දෙන්නේ සමහර වෙලාවට. Supporting initiatives අපි මේ propose කරලා තියෙන්නේ. That's a part of the mandatory requirements also. නැතු බැංකු මේ හැමදේම ආසාවෙන්ම කරන ඒවත් නෙවෙයි වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Because it's a cost factor is also there. But in overall, country-wide, sector-wise, it's a win-win. මේ වැඩේ කරපුවාම යම් ප්‍රමාණයකට ඒගොල්ලෝ ඉගෙන ගන්නවා. ඊළඟ level එකට එනවා. So that is good for them to, come up in the ladder. Central bank provincial officers gattut. So they have some objectives. And why they are there is basically to represent the central bank. Right? Central bank doing some activities and being provincial office, they are providing the same support being region. එතකොට දැන් අපිට ඇත්තටම central bank එකකින් monitoring, coordinating, facilitating, advising ටික කරන එකම they can do it being in the Jaffna. දැන් Jaffna එකේ entrepreneur කෙනෙක් ඇවිල්ලා කොළඹට ඇවිල්ලා ඒ ටික කරගෙන හොයාගෙන යන්න අවශ්‍ය වෙන්නේ නැහැ. So that's what they say. It will continue. So you can read it that SME centers. ඒකත් we have seen it's a very popular tool where banks are supposed to have a dedicated SME center catering to SME entrepreneurs in the area. එතනදී they are providing different support. Non-financial support, advisory, financial support, ICT, market facilitation, negotiation skills, and so many things. So they try to upskill the SMEs skill levels, knowledge. Important. Because now, as we discussed last week, we see that the importance of SMEs, how many people are in this SME sector, how many employment opportunities are being created. If we can bring the SMEs to the next level, value added, the products and services, see the impact they can create, then at that time their contribution, an average example, $1, so you can make that is to $2. Why? With the value added, with the service and the product. So that's what we need to think. Even our individual capacity also, when we are undertaking financing to a client, we should keep that in mind, not only the financial return. We need to support him to grow to next level. Even non-financial support at various, levels that you can extend, because you are kind of expert in different lending. Because you have done so many lending to similar customers. එතකොට අපි ඒ ටික අලුතෙන් එන client කෙනෙකුට ඒක දුන්නා කියලා හනියක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. You are not getting anything for that, but you try to, bring his level to the next level. तर මෙන්න මේව හොඳ වැඩ, මෙන්න මේව කරන්න, මේව good practices, මෙන්න මේව formatting වලට යන්න, මෙන්න මේ ටික කරන්න, මෙහෙම saving කරන්න, මේ විදිහට sinking fund දාගන්න, මේ වගේ clients ලව මේවා කරන්න, ICT එක මේ විදිහට පාවිච්චි කරන්න. දැන් මොකද කරන්නේ? මේ විදිහට කරනකොට they also learn lot from you. Relationship එක හොඳයි. අපිත් learn කරගන්නවා. දැන් ඇත්තටම මේ අපි අද උගේ සතිය සහ එන සතිය මේක කරන එකේ එක objective එකක් තමයි අපි මේක ඇඟට ගන්නවා වගේම අපි ඒක disseminate කරන්නත් ඕන. අපි ඒක share කරන්නත් ඕන. දැන් අර අපි කියලා තියෙනවානේ ඕනම දෙයක් අපි practice කියලා කියන්නේ. අපි ඒක revise කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ. දැන් අපි ඉගෙන ගන්න දේ දැන් if you can tell it to somebody in your words. දැන් උදාහරණයක් අපි ඉගෙන ගත්ත සමහර දෙයක් when you go to an office and then you can share it with your colleague in your own words, own examples, own experience. එතකොට මොකද වෙන්නේ? ඒක වගේ ඇඟට internalize වෙනවා. right? දැන් අපි මෙහෙම දැන් ගත්තොත් මෙන්න මේ වගේ දෙයක මෙන්න මේ වගේ දෙයක්. එහෙම නැත්නම් අපි මොන හරි දන්න දෙයක්. So why not you practice this? මෙන්න මේ ටික බලන්න. හරි business plan එකක තියෙන මෙන්න මේ ටික. ඒතර අපි අපේ දා ගන්නවා. ඒක අපේ client කෙනෙකුට කියනවා. අපේ work colleague කෙනෙකුට කියනවා. So what happens is so we as a team we are enriched. එහෙම තමයි benefit වෙන්නේ. එහෙම නැතුව මේක අපි බැලුව පැත්තක තිබ්බා අපිටත් වැඩක් නැහැ. මිනිස්සුන්ටත් වැඩක් නැහැ. ඕගනයිසේෂන් එකට වැඩක් නැහැ. සෙන්සුරාදාවල් ටිකක් මගේ මේවා වෙනවා. සර්ටිෆිකේට් එකක් අඩුම ගන්න එනවා කියලා හිතාගෙන එතෙන්ට යනවට වඩා අපි try to practice it. Apply this. ඒක මට කියන්න බෑ කොහොමද කොතනද apply වෙන්නේ කියලා. සමහරවිට මේ අපි කියපු දේවල් ඔයාගේ clientele එකේ ගොඩකට apply වෙන්න පුළුවන්. සමහරවිට මේ වෙනකොට already ඒගොල්ලෝ කරනවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. එතකොට දැන් අපිට සමහරට ඒගොල්ලන්ගෙන් දෙයක් අපිට ඉගෙන ගන්නවා වෙන්න පුළුවන්. Best practice they might impart to you. Then you learn it and you share it to your colleagues and the other customers. So අපි අන්නේ ඒ approach එක තිබ්බොත් හරි lazy. හරි සමහර වෙලාවට දැන් අපි මේ ගත්තොත් දැන් අපි මේ sources ගැන කතා කරන දැන් සමහර වෙලාවට වෙනවා starting your negotiations ඔයාලට තේරෙනවා නම් මෙන්න මේ වගේ දෙයක් වට කරන්න පුළුවන් කියලා. It's a very valuable advice to your client. සමහරට එයා හිතලවත් නැතුව තියෙන්න ඇති මගේ ගෙදර මගේ business එකේ මෙච්චරක් තියෙන resource එකක් මට තියෙනවා. Then you why not you think first on this? Then it's a kind of a very good message to him, very good news to him. Thereafter he respects you to great level. මොකද දැන් හැම කෙනෙක්ම බලන්නේ ආ ලෝන් එක කොහමද ලෝන් එකක් නැගේ ගාලා යවනවට වඩා ඔයාගේ business proposition එක, එයාගේ business model එක, එයාගේ capacity competency එක එහෙම අඳුරගත්තාම මොකද වෙන්නේ? It's a relationship. right අපි කියනවානේ දැන් transaction එකයි relationship එක කියලා. transaction lending කියලා කියන්නේ right loan එකක් ආවා ඔක්කොම කරා අනුමත කරා දුන්නා කරා repay කරා ඉවරයි. The relationship banking is a bit of next level. එතනදී අපි personally අපි we are relate with the client. experience share කරනවා. අපි දන්න දෙයට එයා දන්න දේ අපිට value additions ongoing දේවල් continuous learning. right එතකොට අපි අර කියන වගේ one product එකක් නෙවෙයි multiple product. So we try to reach his other, the kith and king, other players of his family. It's a relationship. It's overall, api bank ekak tuda talekata, client tuda talekata. Right? So that's what generally we need to do. Because that time, api kochchar me igena gatta mewa දැන් සතියක් දෙකක් යනකොට මේක අමතක වෙනවා. For exam yes we do it a bit of revise and so ඒකත් පාස් වෙයි අපි. බෑර මම හැම වෙලෙම කියනවා වගේ අද දවසේ අපි slide 20ක් 30ක් ඉගෙන ගත්තා. maybe slides දෙකක් තුනක් තමයි ඔයාගේ ඔළුවේ තියෙන්නේ. ඒ හොඳටම ඇති. ඔයා හිතා ගන්න what are the best thing that it is relevant to you to practice. Based on your area, based on your work, based on your whatever the projects undertaken. Some are relevant, some are not. Irrelevant eva you share it and you polish it and sharpen it. තවටියක් කියවන්න තවටියක් ගන්න දැනගන්න then share with the client and get back from the client and then සමහරලාට ඔයාම branch එකේ unit එකේ හොඳම product development එකක් කරලා head office එකට යවන්න පුළුවන්. Will be accepted by very gracefully by your superiors. How you have done it? Some kind of the data you gathered, different approach. Right? Then you see some clients are you don't have collaterals or api kiwa issues ke kiya wadak nahi ne. You are there to manage issues ne, conquer the issues problems. එතකොට ඔයා right මේක නැත්තම් අපි මෙන්න මේක තමයි project එක. මෙන්න මේ වගේ හරි මෙන්න මේ විදිහට අපිට tie up කරන technology. So it's the one page say product we have developed. ඊට පස්සේ කතා කරලා මේවා කරලා so then come up in maybe the branch wide bank wide product එකකට ගන්න පුළුවන්. Maybe the small start goes to the long way. හැබැයි you have to start it somewhere. නැත්තම් නෑ මේක නෑ මේ විදිහට කරොත් අපිට හරියන්නේ නෑ මෙහෙමයි කියලා හිතියොත් බෑ. We talk about R&D, we talk about innovation. A client පැත්තෙන් වගේ we also can do bit of R&D innovation on product development, market development, customer approach, new methods, right? So then work on that. So that's what we generally wanted to do and we wanted to share. Okay. The last slide is not bit of new one. This is Sme Toolkit, where when you go to the web, you can type like IFC small Sme Toolkit. They are very important, right? This provides us some kind of insights to entrepreneurs how to do their business, how to manage, how to undertake bookkeeping, how to undertake financial activities. ඒ වගේ ගොඩක් දේවල් කියලා දෙනවා මේ සයිට් එක. ඒක 3 languages වලටම තිබුණා. ඉතින් දැන් මේ වගේ එකක් මම මෑතකදී නම් මේක ඇත්තටම ගියේ නැහැ. right? But you can test it, I think, still in the working. I don't think they will look this is a joint project dialogue and IFC. If you can, allow it to your client to, go through this, make a business plan and make it. මොකද්ද මේක කොහොමද හැදෙන්නේ මොනවද බලන්න ඕනේ මොනවද importance එක why the financials are important, right? Understanding balance sheet, understanding the P&L. So these are important. Then අපිටත් ඇත්තටම we also can learn this. මොකද අපි දැන් ඔය කොහෙවත් තියෙන document එකක් කියවගෙන නැතුව you just go and see it. So relevant. The clients also willing to see this. So they can add more value to their businesses. So these are some of the support mechanisms that we can impart, share our the entrepreneurs, right? So basically today what I want to share with it's as part 2 of the overall module, where what are the sources of financing, and also we touch upon some issues and some remedies of SME entrepreneurs and the banks facing on day-to-day basis. So I think we have done a kind of some fair insights to those areas. As I was telling, these are very methodical, theoretical area, but please bear with me, because sometimes which are very much not practical for your day-to-day lending, but still important, because since that we are trying to do a kind of a SME program about 96 hours, means that it's a longer period. So you need to know your base, have a good basic understanding about your SME, into sources, introduction to imports and all that. May not be exactly relevant to your day-to-day banking, but when you say that you have done a course, SME Diploma, so the expectation is that you need to know about basic of SME, definition, ins and out of SME, challenges, sources of financing, international, local. So everything will be expected by you as outsider, So good, these things are make some kind of insights to you. And anytime you can go to the web and Google and you can get some idea about what are those things. Maybe very current, up-to-date information can be obtained. So in order to do that, at least you know what are the areas to cover. So that's why I wanted to share initial, maybe a couple of additional slides also to support that I have given two reading materials, so that you can go through and get more insights. And finally, on the examination perspective, since that we might have some examination at the end of the this thing, so probably we are also supposed to give some questions, but so I will focus kind of very simple questions, mainly on the slides we discussed during the class, right? So any questions from you end, anything that we need to discuss or maybe clarify, missing, or maybe a kind of a feedback from your end? What do you experience on whatever the discussed point today? Anything? Okay, if we don't have a bigger or much of questions here, so what you could do is we can wind it for the today. Next week we try to understand more on SME policy framework, which is again bit of a very high level document which has been formalized by the Sri Lankan government or the respective ministries and departments. So we'll try to understand that SME policy in a detailed version. And then if time permits, that we can discuss about some more coming under the first lesson about transaction banking, relationship banking and all that things. So by end of next session, so we will be able to complete the first module, and then we can week after that we can go to the second module, and then basically it's more about a bit of practical lending things are being discussed, right? Rather than the first lesson, second one is more or less to practical oriented lending, so that you can have more experience from your side, and we can share, we can learn more stuffs in the second module. So please bear with me. The first lesson anyway, it's a bit of boring and too academic, but anyway, it's a part of the course, so we need to do it, though how much difficult to bear with the boring, but anyway, it's a part of the things that you need to have those skills, knowledge acquired. So having said that, since we don't have much questions here, thank you very much for joining me Saturday morning, amidst so many engagements that you have at your home front, but very happy to have your feedback, interactive, the inputs. So let's meet next Saturday, same time, and so we will continue on the SME importance, that module 1, and week after that, so we'll move to the more practical lending area. So thank you very much for joining, and again, I wish you very happy and great, safe week ahead. Thank you again.